The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. NASCAR, Indycar, Formula 1, FormulaE, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here's your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Yeah, the gang is all here in a hybrid version of the show.
Yeah, if that's what you want to call it.
I can't think of a better way to put it, truth be told. Usually we are on several different formats, but our flagship station in East Central Alabama, they got college football priorities. So we, along with a whole lot of other shows that they would normally do on a Saturday morning, they're not going to be on the FM.
Yep. It's going to be a little while.
But you know what? We have this avenue, and we appreciate you joining us here. CRN Live on YouTube. If you haven't told your friends, tell your friends about it, because you can still get your racing fix this morning. You just got to go about it a different way. That's all that it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Steve West. That's Matt Nicholson. Producer John Myers back in the building. Yay. Welcome back in, brother. Hope everything is going well with you.
Going great.
Good to see you.
Good to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you back in. Now, here's the fun part about this. Not being on the radio and being just internet only, technically, we got all the time we want.
Technicality, yep.
Which is a good thing, because we got a book. Got a lot to talk about. This has been a week.
Yeah.
Last weekend, when we knew that this was coming up, you and I actually had consideration that we might take this weekend off.
It was discussed, yeah.
And then the dominoes began to fall.
I cracked the whip.
And well, the thing about it was, all the dominoes began to fall. And we're not talking about small itty-bitty dominoes. We're talking about humongous, like 2x4 Jenga or 4x4 Jenga woodblock puzzle dominoes began to fall.
Very sizable ones.
We could not take this weekend off. So let's get into it. Let's look quickly back at last weekend. Start with the Xfinity Series. Kansas was an interesting weekend. Noah Gragson seems to have found what he needed, but he needed to wait through a bit of a rain delay to grab it. Started 6th on the late race restart. Just a few laps later, charged up to the point, got around the car that had been dominant to that point, Ty Gibbs. But wait, there'll be more when it comes to that. That was lap 76. Lap 82, light rain interrupted things momentarily. That didn't last long. They raced to the end of stage 2. NASCAR realized, though, that with the rains, track was done. So they decided to call the race official. Gragson declared the winner. 2nd straight win this year. 5th win of the 2022 season. His first career win at Kansas. Okay. Justin Allgaier 2nd, relegating Ty Gibbs to 3rd. Brandon Jones, Moonlighter Ross Chastain in there. A.J. Allmendinger, Josh Berry, Sammy Smith. By the way, congratulations to him, picking up a couple of titles. The ARCA East title. And he also picked up the ARCA Menards short track title
the
as well.
Sioux Chief Short Track Showdown.
Yeah, so congratulations to him on that.
Say that 5 times fast.
No. Sam Mayer and Brett Moffitt filled up top 10. As of last weekend, Ty Gibbs and Noah Gragson were tied with 5 wins each. Gibbs held the tiebreaker. Allmendinger, Justin Allgaier, 3 wins each, 2 wins each for Berry and Austin Hill. Brandon Jones, Jeremy Clements in with a win each, pending Clements' appeal, which we'll get into in series news. Others that were in on points after Kansas: Sam Mayer, Riley Earps, Daniel Hemrick, Landon Castle, Ryan Sieg. Sieg only 13 points up on Sheldon Creed. And with Bristol last night, foreshadowing, a lot of things could and did move around.
It did.
But we're still talking last weekend. Sunday morning, Formula One's turn on the center stage, running the Grand Prix of Italy. And while he didn't claim the pole, that was, to the crowd's delight, Ferrari's Charles Leclerc. Again, they were in Italy. Leclerc couldn't keep the lead. He gave it up to, and there's no shock here, Max Verstappen, who held it to the end. He was leading by almost 2.5 seconds at the end. Leclerc second, George Russell third, 4th through 10th, featuring Carlos Sainz, Lewis Hamilton, Sergio Perez, Lando Norris, Pierre Gasly, the reserve driver, Nick DeVries in the Williams. Oh, yeah, we'll be getting back to that. And Zhou Guanyu. Wasn't without some controversy, Daniel Ricciardo's McLaren giving up on lap 45. Formula One didn't get the car cleared out. I use the term quickly enough in very loose terms because they actually ended the race under caution 8 laps later. It caused more than one driver to start complaining loudly over their car radios that they weren't being given a chance to race to the end. Among them was Charles Leclerc, who again finished second. I have never seen Formula One move so slow to clear out a car as they did that car.
That one was kind of puzzling. Like you said, I agree with you. That was an awfully, awfully slow move just to clear a car that could have been cleared in probably
3 laps, 4 maybe tops.
I would say 2.
8 laps.
That was.
I mean, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I'll say 4 laps.
Yeah.
You know, let's assume that it was in one of the hardest parts of the track to be able to reach. And I don't have the full map to know exactly where all the safety equipment people were. So the truth of the matter is, I haven't got the slightest clue how long it was going to take them to get a crane, because that's what they had to do, pick up the car and get it off the track.
Yeah.
But assuming that it was in, right smack dab in the middle between 2 different locations, yeah, I'll give you 4 laps.
Mm-hmm.
8 laps? Sorry, folks, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Yeah, it should have been better. I mean,
I've driven a version of Monza in the video game Gran Turismo, and I'm talking the Formula One version of that. It's a decently long track.
Oh yeah, it's. I haven't driven it in Monza, but I've driven it on iRacing, and it is pretty long.
Yeah, I don't get what took so long.
It had to be just bad staging for the safety equipment.
I guess. Verstappen holds your points lead 335 to 219 now over Leclerc, who's back in second all by himself. Sergio Perez 210, 203 for George Russell. Then you got Carlos Sainz at 187, Lewis Hamilton at 168. Then you go from there all the way down to Lando Norris in 7th with 88 points. 66 for Esteban Ocon, Fernando Alonso 59, Valtteri Bottas 10th in points with 46. Red Bull with a big, commanding, and almost insurmountable 545 to 406 point lead over Ferrari for the Constructors' Cup. It's 371. Mercedes pretty much all by themselves if they go on a run. If.
That's a big key word.
They go on a run, they could battle for second. I don't see it. I'll just say it that way. Alpine is next, 125. McLaren, 107. Alfa Romeo, 52. Haas F1 with 34. Being chased down by AlphaTauri, who's now got 33. And Aston Martin not that far back at 25. And Williams is up to 6, thanks to Nick DeVries.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we'll get back to that coming up in a bit, because I got an opinion and some comments that were made just Thursday, I take that back, when some Williams officials arrived or got to talking to some media, because they're not racing this weekend. Foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of tells me that a seat that had been hot is now not only white hot, but scaldingly white hot. I mean, you want to talk about ridiculously hot.
Let's just say the metal on the seat is not blue, it's purple.
And about to melt. IndyCar in the Cup Series got rolling about the same time last Sunday. IndyCar finished first, so that's where we're going to go first. This was also the final race of their 2022 season. 5 drivers mathematically with a chance for the title, but realistically only 3 with a really good chance of winning it. The man in control was Will Power. Power didn't have to and could not claim the race win. That went, in actually fairly dominant fashion, to Alex Palou. Alex Palou ended his reign as the series defending champion. He won it for the 2021 season by leading 67 of the 90 laps and claimed the largest margin of victory in IndyCar this season, a Formula One-like 30.3 second gap between first and second.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
The second place runner was Joseph Newgarden. He was the closest on points going into the race. Simply wasn't enough. Power, who only had to keep Newgarden in sight, did so. Finished third, got his second career title. Trailed by Felix Rosenquist, the rookie Christian Lundgaard in there as well with a top 5. Scott McLaughlin, Romain Grosjean, Pato O'Ward, Marcus Ericsson, Alexander Rossi fill out your top 10. Again, Power claims his second career title by a total of 16 points over Joseph Newgarden. With Lundgaard claiming his top 10 finish, he claims the 2022 Rookie of the Year officially, racked up 323 points to David Malukas' 305. Callum Ilott was third. Devlin DeFrancesco, Kyle Kirkwood, Tatiana Calderon finished that out. And Chevrolet, congratulations to them. They're back on top, besting Honda to win the 2022 IndyCar Engine Builders Trophy. And that brings us back to Kansas, where, as opposed to Saturday, Sunday, the weather was not a problem. But after week 1 of the playoffs, where an outsider had claimed the win in the form of Bubba Wallace, in the form of Eric Jones, the title contenders were hoping to lock themselves into the next round, except one driver, the aforementioned Bubba Wallace, had other ideas. Driving the same number car that put Kurt Busch in victory lane at that track earlier this year, he gets his win, his second in the Cup Series. Had been battling at or near the front for most of the third stage. Finally grabs the lead on lap 225 and kept it for the final 43 laps. Bested his car owner in the process. Denny Hamlin ends up finishing second. Eric Jones, Bubba Wallace claim wins, meaning no drivers locked into round 2 with a win. Christopher Bell is locked into round 2 on points.
Mm-hmm.
But he's the only driver coming into tonight's race at Bristol who actually is confirmed to be locked into round 2. The 4 drivers on the hot seat are Kyle Busch, who had a strangely bad day at Kansas.
Yeah.
He's 2 points under the cutoff. Austin Dillon, Chase Briscoe, and Kevin Harvick. Harvick actually looked good until he kind of got into a situation that was not of his doing. We'll just put it that way. Ended up getting wrecked late in the race. He's 35 points under.
That was nothing but hard racing.
I would agree. I'm not laying a blame on anybody. It was hard racing, but this was a situation not of Kevin Harvick's doing. He just got caught kind of wrong place, wrong time.
Very, very, very true. But a stat that I saw after Kansas, there are 32 registered full-time competitors in Cup.
Excuse me.
18 winners.
I know. We have
18 winners.
We have a decent chance to get 20 winners this year.
Which would be really, really crazy.
That'd be nuts. 20 different winners in a season? I don't know as I've seen that in my life.
I'm not so sure that 19th one could come tonight. Could definitely
happen at Talladega.
I'm definitely not sure next week with Texas.
Yeah, Texas is generally one of those ones where
the next best shot to get that 19th winner is Talladega in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Hands down, no question. But we know stranger things have happened.
That's an understatement.
I mean, somebody with the likes of, in regards to tonight, the likes of Michael McDowell.
Sure.
He could sneak up there.
Yeah, and he's been known to be good at Bristol.
Yeah. All the Gibbs cars have won this year. All the Hendrick cars have won. No. Martin Truex. He hasn't won this year.
True. So
that could easily.
And he's always good at Bristol.
That could easily be winner number 19, no pun intended. Ryan Blaney.
True. He hasn't won this year. And if you go by qualifying, and I know that qualifying is always different than the race, but if you go by qualifying, Stewart-Haas Racing came to play.
Yeah, they woke up in a pretty interesting way yesterday.
And they needed to. I mean, we just mentioned it. The 2 drivers that they have in the playoffs, Chase Briscoe and Kevin Harvick, they're both under the cutoff line. They need to wake up.
Out of the top.
But the guy that's sitting on the pole is the guy that I'm also looking at, because Eric Almirola is no slouch at Bristol.
No. He's
Eric
not.
Almirola could come up and bite him.
Out of the top 20. Let's just go this way with the top 20 on the starting lineup. There are, my opinion, 1, 2.
I'll just go ahead and name them.
I'm going to count them off by the numbers, then I'm going to go right back here and name them. Okay. 1, 2, what? Nah. 1, 2, 3. I'll say that one. 3, 4, 5, 6.
That's easily a quarter.
I'm going to stretch it to top 22. 7.
Okay, so you're at about a third of the top 22.
And out of those top 22, that could be the winner number 19 of the year. Martin Truex Jr.
Yep.
Chris Buescher.
Yeah, I could see that because they've actually started to come around over there at Roush Fenway Keselowski.
Michael McDowell.
Yeah, we just talked about it.
Brad Keselowski.
Right.
Ryan Blaney.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Almirola.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll even throw A.J. Allmendinger in.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I could see that.
I'll throw him in.
I could see that, absolutely. This weekend's action actually began Thursday night at Bristol with the UNOH 200 presented by Ohio Logistics. This was for the soon-to-not-be any longer the Camping World Truck Series. When it was all said and done, Ty Majeski and Zane Smith were leading the field to green on the final restart with 12 to go. Majeski, who made the playoffs on points, is now the first one locked into the championship 4 in Phoenix. Marked one heck of a time to grab his first ever Camping World Truck Series victory, and he wanted to savor it and save his first win, so he didn't do what most do after a win. He did not do a burnout. He did do what Alan Kulwicki used to call the Polish victory lap. It was met with some good-hearted boos because the crowd was supporting him, knowing it was his first win. Smith ended up second, trailed by Parker Kligerman. Good run for the part-time driver. Is he going to get a full-time ride next year? Because he keeps talking about it.
It's going to be close.
I can't believe he hasn't had one.
I think he's in the mix for one. It's just a matter of where.
Grant Enfinger in there, Matt Crafton, who is no longer in the playoffs. Derek Krause, Stuart Friesen, Christian Eckes, Chandler Smith, and Corey Heim make up your top 10. Yeah, only 2 more races left before the Phoenix season ender for the Truck Series. The 4 drivers on the hot seat now. John Hunter Nemechek. 9 points under the cutoff slot.
He had an uncharacteristically bad race.
Yeah. Stuart Friesen is also Stuart Friesen holds, by the way, that cutoff slot. Nemechek 9 points under, Christian Eckes 13 under, Grant Enfinger 15 under, which is a little bit of a surprise, and Ben Rhodes is 18 down. Last night at Bristol, they held the Food City 300 for the Xfinity Series. Matt, you got a rundown there.
Yeah, quick little rundown there because I was a little occupied last night. Didn't get to see it all. But taking his 3rd straight win, Noah Gragson was your winner. Brandon Jones was second. They had a really good, clean race at the end there.
Yeah, it was getting real tight there at the end, and Noah Gragson figured out how to make that car real wide real quick.
Yeah, he did. I saw it on just a little clip on social media the last 5 laps. It was a pretty clean race. Austin Hill 3rd, Sam Mayer 4th, Riley Earps 5th, A.J. Allmendinger 6th, Josh Berry 7th, Stephen Parsons.
Nice run for him.
8th, it would come in 8th, Justin Allgaier 9th, and Ryan Sieg 10th. So setting the Xfinity Series playoff grid, your top 12 in reverse order. You have Ryan Sieg, the 12th seed, Riley Earps, the 11th seed, Daniel Hemrick, the 10th seed, Sam Mayer, the 9th seed, Jeremy Clements, seed number 8, foreshadowing. Brandon Jones, seed number 7, Austin Hill, the 6th seed, Josh Berry, the 5th seed, A.J. Allmendinger, the 4th seed, Justin Allgaier, the 3rd seed, Ty Gibbs, the 2nd seed, and number 1 overall seed is Noah Gragson.
Yep. Landon Castle, who was in the playoffs going into this race, had been in the playoffs, but they had a problem with his car. And I forget what it was, but they had a problem with his car.
Landon Castle?
Yeah.
Right front hub went out.
Thank you. And they were able to get it fixed, and they were able to get him back out onto the track, but unfortunately it was too little too late. He ends up 5 points under the cutoff. Sheldon Creed got into a wreck, not of his doing, where Ty Gibbs got up into him. This was a situation with Noah Gragson. Something about Noah Gragson and Ty Gibbs. It's like they have magnets. They're just attracted to each other.
It was a kind of a question mark for me. But I looked back at it just a minute ago. Looked to me like it was just a clean bump and run, a classic bump and run at Bristol.
Yeah, I mean, Gragson was. There's no doubt about it. I don't think it was a dirty move. It's just the latest in a series where we just can't seem to get Noah Gragson and Ty Gibbs to get away from each other.
Yeah.
And Gragson was just able to get on the accelerator much faster. I guess he figured that Ty Gibbs was going to get on the accelerator, but Ty didn't get on it when Noah did and hits the back bumper, which if you're in the middle of a corner at Bristol, just like at Talladega, you get loose. We don't know where you're going.
Yep.
Gibbs in this case went up. He collected Sheldon Creed, so Creed misses by 40 points. Anthony Alfredo and, everybody else, they're more than 100 points down, so that wasn't going to, make any difference at all. So that's your lineup there. Tonight, I guess more specifically, Cup Series at Bristol. They're going to run the Bass Pro Shops night race. USA has the coverage. NBC's probably doing something with Notre Dame. And PRN Radio begins 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. And then tomorrow, race number 1 of the NHRA's Camping World Drag Racing Series Countdown to the Championship. They're going to Maple Grove Raceway in Reading, Pennsylvania. We'll be talking about that because they've been doing some work there. We'll let you know about that. That's going to be tomorrow. Live coverage on the Fox Network. Remember, we're in the NFL season. This is week 2 of the NFL. And they've got the NHRA on the main network. 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central Time. We'll talk about that coming up in a bit.
Gentlemen, this is astounding. The NBC schedule for tonight.
Oh, let me guess. It's not Notre Dame.
For our just for our local affiliate here in East Central Alabama.
Okay.
The local news at 6 p.m.
Sure.
At 6:30, Soledad
Which
O'Brien.
would be about the time the race coverage itself would start.
Soledad O'Brien with her little show, Matter of Fact.
Well, that sounds boring.
7 p.m. America's Got Talent.
I got news for you. America ain't got that much talent.
Because Notre Dame plays at 1:30 p.m. today.
Congratulations, NBC. You screwed up again. Formula One, by the way, the only other series that's still in season now, is off this weekend.
Yep.
And actually for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think so.
Strangely enough.
Yeah.
One would think that they'd had enough of a rest. They took the entire month of August off.
That's true, yeah. They got to complain about travel.
All right, we are going to take a short little break. We're going to work them into this. This will give us a chance to stretch our legs, grab something to drink, whatever it is that we need to do here. And when we come back, we start in on the news. We start in with the Cup Series because I'm not even going to say arguably the biggest news of the week came out of the Cup Series. Silly season is now officially well underway. Dominoes are falling. And oh, by the way, the ripple effect is going to be huge. We'll tell you all about that when we come back. You're listening to CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. 4 tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back in. We appreciate you joining us here on this kind of different edition of the show where we are YouTube only. Thank you very much for joining us. We just went through the recap in case you didn't join us at our normal start time. We started right about the same time we would when we've got all of the different aspects going, including the radio side of things, 8 o'clock. Thing about it is, we don't have to stop at 10.
No, we don't.
No time constraints.
No. Now, we've kind of put our own little time constraint on it. If we get close to 11 o'clock because, well, we all have places to go and things to do because it is Saturday.
Yep.
So 3 hours? It gives us time to chat. And, are we going to be chatting about this bit of news?
There's a couple of things I'm going to pick apart.
Oh, yeah. Biggest news of the week, Lo, teased over last weekend. Kyle Busch released a teaser video saying that he was going to have a big announcement coming on Tuesday. The announcement was indeed where Kyle Busch was going to be driving in 2023. We had heard as many as 4 or 5 teams potentially vying for his services.
Stuart Haas, Colleague, 2311 in a third car, RCR.
And there had been talk about Stuart Haas maybe being in there as well.
Yeah.
By the time we got to last weekend, we had pretty much figured it was down to probably about 2 teams. Mm-hmm. And he confirmed it was Richard Childress Racing. He's going to drive the number 8 next year. That car is currently driven by 2-time winner this year, Tyler Reddick, who is competing for the 2022 title in that car. And Reddick was, keyword there, slated to return to that car, was, in 2023, presumably will take over the 45 car for the 2024 season. We'll circle back to that. Let's get back to Busch first. The announcement was held at the NASCAR Hall of Fame in downtown Charlotte, meaning that this, his 15th season at Joe Gibbs Racing, will be Kyle Busch's final one. In that time, he became the team's all-time winningest driver. 56 of his 60 Cup wins coming in the number 18 Toyota. Think about that for a second. Kyle Busch is Joe Gibbs Racing's all-time winningest driver. Yeah. And think about some of the drivers that Joe Gibbs started with 3 Hall of Famers technically in a row. Dale Jarrett, then to Bobby Labonte, then to Tony Stewart. And Kyle Busch is Joe Gibbs Racing's all-time winningest driver. Again, 56 of his 60 Cup wins coming in the number 18. The 2 titles, 2015 and 2019. By the way, he is in contention for the title again this season. He is under the cutoff line going into tonight's race. But certain drivers seem to know how to run certain tracks pretty well. Kyle Busch knows how to drive Bristol.
He's a dangerous threat for tonight.
Absolutely.
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
Because I don't just randomly, out of 3 fantasy league things that I play, Kyle Busch is my 1 seed on all 3 of them.
I understand fully. Busch said in the announcement press conference, quote, RCR has an impressive history in NASCAR, and I'm honored that Richard's putting the trust in me to come in and continue to build on that legacy. Growing up in a family of passionate drivers myself, I feel like the culture that the Childress family has built within their organization will be an ideal fit for me. As I begin the next chapter of my career, I'm looking forward to driving for RCR and working with everyone there to add more wins and championships to both of our resumes.
The one thing that caught me off guard about the entire thing is when it was revealed how he was approached and who approached him. Austin Dillon struck that up to get him to RCR, of all people.
That is an interesting thing to note.
But
so, all right, let's deal with this first, and then we'll deal with some of the ripple effects from this in a minute. We've seen the 8 car.
Yeah.
With Tyler Reddick, 2 wins this year.
Mm-hmm.
No disrespect to Tyler Reddick.
Yeah.
Kyle Busch is a better all-around driver. Tyler Reddick is still learning and trying to get some of the rough edges smoothed off. Yeah. It's not as bad as it was. Tyler Reddick is a pretty polished driver, but he's still got a few rough edges there that Kyle Busch doesn't have.
Oh, year 1 to year 2 for Reddick is vastly different, but there's still room for polishing.
Exactly. Kyle Busch is polished, and he's coming in with a team that now knows how to win, doing it twice, because he's inheriting the entire pit crew and the crew chief. They're all staying on the 8 car. They're just going to transition from Reddick to Busch. This car, even though, yes, it's technically a title contender this year, next year to me is a more legitimate title threat.
I agree. The 8 car, where it may be, let's use it this way. If it may be an 8 to 12 seed this year, it's a 4 to 8 next year.
Yeah.
4 to 8 solid.
Which, depending on how things breaks, could be higher.
Depending on how they get out of the gate next year, I'm not going to say a 1 seed at all. I'm not even going to say a 2 seed. I could say as high as 3.
Mm-hmm.
I could say that.
Now, here comes the other question, and we haven't seen it because really we haven't had to see it. I get that we've seen some younger drivers come through Joe Gibbs Racing during the time that Kyle Busch has been there, but overall, Kyle has not had to be a mentor.
No.
On the other hand, you're talking about a 2, maybe a 3 car operation next year, depending on how all this works out. We'll, again, dig into that here in a minute. We know we've seen Austin Dillon get into victory lane, but Austin Dillon is far from the driver that I think he thinks he is.
I concur.
To me, Austin Dillon just isn't the talent that some people believe that he is. And I'll be real honest when I say this, and I think it's being borne out with Ty.
Yeah.
If Austin Dillon didn't have the family ties, i.e. his grandfather's Richard Childress, I don't think Austin Dillon would be in the car that he's in.
Probably not.
So with that being said, does Kyle Busch take up a mentor role and talk to Austin Dillon? Because, as you mentioned, Austin Dillon came to Kyle.
Yeah.
And said, would you be willing to come over here? Is this the start of a relationship where Austin realizes maybe I'm not the strength that I once thought I was, and I might need some help, and I think this is the guy that might be able to do it?
That's a very fair assessment, I would say. Very fair. Because when you come in and you got Tyler Reddick that has won more races in 1 year than you've won in 3, yeah, I could see that. But
I mean, reality has to hit at some point in time that Austin realizes he's not the hot shoe that everyone was thinking that he might be when he got into the series.
Mm-hmm. But with some of the wording that I heard RC use at that press conference, I feel like he's forcing Toyota's hand to go ahead and buy Tyler Reddick out.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think people know it's not officially announced yet. Unfortunately, I feel like we've seen Kurt Busch run his last race.
Unfortunately. But we'll get into that here in a bit.
I feel like we have. So let's say Toyota doesn't buy out that contract and they let him finish out his contract with Chevrolet and RCR. Now you've got, and he stated clearly, 3 charter team next year.
He did.
So he's got to lease a charter from somewhere.
At the very least.
I'm pretty sure because Kaulig can get in a race on speed, period.
Absolutely.
They can get in a race on speed. So they could afford to let RC lease that charter for a year and then get it right back in 24.
Absolutely, yeah.
They can afford that.
I would agree with that.
But the question is, does he shutter one Xfinity team to gain a Cup team, or does he start that 3rd Cup team outright?
I mean, we've seen Childress with more than 2 cars before. We know he's got the infrastructure.
I've seen him with, I remember when he had 4 Cup, 3 Xfinity, and 2 trucks.
Yeah, we know he's got the infrastructure. The parts supplies seem to be coming through in a much better fashion, maybe not perfect,
sure.
but they're better. So, yeah, I think Childress could, if he wanted to, go ahead and start that third car outright. And like you said, get a lease of a charter for a year, revert it back to whichever team, Kaulig or whoever. I think it could be done. But you did mention it. Childress has stated that the plan is to keep Reddick in a Cup car. Details, though, not available. We noted it. Randall Burnett, who's the crew chief for Reddick this season, will remain with the 8. He'll be Busch's crew chief in 2023. Part of the pact, this is an interesting thing to note as well, between Childress and Busch will allow Kyle Busch at a time of his own choosing to do what his brother did back in 2014, and that's attempt the double, the Indy 500 and Coca-Cola 600. As for who he would drive that with, well, now he's got a whole lot more options. Let's face it, since he's now with Chevrolet. Kyle even noted that, quote, "So by all means, any IndyCar teams that are Chevrolet, call me up. I can do it. It wasn't important. No, none of the teams that I spoke to, it was not on the priority list. The priority list was me, myself. Can I win races? Can I win championships? And then what does KBM, Kyle Busch Motorsports, look like?" We'll get back to that too. Indy 500 wasn't on that paper. But again, with his brother having done it, it's something that he's been thinking about probably since 2014.
Oh, sure.
Well, what about his wife? Well, in that particular case, Kyle Busch hedged his bets. He said, yeah, Samantha's okay with it, and then stopped and said, yeah, she hasn't said no. The last person that said no was my former boss, referring to Joe Gibbs. Joe Gibbs has some experience with that. He saw Tony Stewart do it twice. He wasn't ready to watch another driver attempt it while working for him. The whole Indy 500 thing, it was just a matter of time before we saw the next driver attempt the double. I personally thought it was going to be Kyle Larson.
I'm going to say this right now at 8:39 a.m. on September 17th, 2022, in his own video. I will be shocked if he does not attempt the 2023 Indy 500.
Question is with who?
Ed Carpenter.
You go Ed Carpenter instead of another Andretti Autosport?
Chevrolet.
That's true. I'm sorry. Who's that? Doesn't matter.
Penske. I don't think he would do that because of a rival Cup team.
And Penske's already kind of dealt with the whole Busch situation.
Yep. All right, so that leaves Penske, Ed Carpenter, one that I forgot, Arrow McLaren. They're Chevrolet.
I potentially see that.
I see
that'd mean a fourth car for them.
Even though they are Chevrolet, I seriously doubt it's Jucos Hollinger.
I don't think they're ready for it yet.
I'm hedging my bets on either Arrow McLaren or Ed Carpenter.
We'll see. Either way, this situation when it comes to Reddick, and again, there's this snowball effect here. Let's get into it. Snowball, ripple, whatever you want to call it. I mean, if you want to use the ripple effect, this was a humongous boulder dropped into the lake. And it's going to create some big waves. And it already has, actually. Joe Gibbs Racing, they haven't announced it yet, but it does seem quite likely now that Ty Gibbs, who's Joe's grandson, is going to move up from Xfinity to Cup a year earlier than what the initial plans were, and that'll put him in the 18 car. Presumably, the 45 would have Kurt Busch back. We'll get back to that. This is a huge loss to Toyota. Again, 56 of 60 Cup Series wins. All of the wins that he's had in the Xfinity, and I get it, he's retired, but that's a legacy that he's got. And maybe not even arguably, Toyota's most successful Truck Series operation.
No question.
Because Busch said as much, that with his move from Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota to Richard Childress Racing and Chevrolet, his Truck Series team will be moving to run Chevrolet Silverados beginning next year as well. David Wilson, who is the Toyota Racing Development President, who had said earlier this year he was willing to do whatever it took to try to keep Kyle Busch driving the Toyota brand, not only because he himself as a driver is that good, but because his Truck Series team is that good, said that at one point in time this year, any other scenario is just unacceptable. He's going to have to accept it now. as will Gibbs. Gibbs, I'll give him credit for this. Excuse me. He was professional when he released his statement. Said, Kyle's been a major part of our history and success here at Joe Gibbs Racing. We're thankful for all his contributions to our organization over the years. When you look at all that he's accomplished already, it is truly remarkable. We know someday we'll be celebrating his Hall of Fame induction. That's an almost guarantee.
Yeah, that's a deadlock.
Gibbs continued, we also know he still has many more achievements in our sport ahead of him, including competing for the championship this season. We wish Kyle, Samantha, Brexton, and Lennox the very best.
I'll say this about Toyota. There's been times on this very show we've been extremely critical of how Toyota conducts their business in the upper echelons of NASCAR because they're so stinking top heavy.
Yeah. I mean, even now, with 2311 having 2 full-time cars, it's really still only 6.
True. Very true. But you got to look at this right here. Now, after last week, the turnover that Toyota has had. Carl Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Kenseth.
Mm-hmm.
I'll even throw because he drove one for a year. Tony Stewart.
Sure.
Eric Jones. Joey Logano. And now Kyle Busch.
Daniel Suarez.
Daniel Suarez.
I mean, and these are just the drivers that have come through Joe Gibbs Racing that have won races in Toyotas. And yeah, it starts with Tony Stewart. When Joe Gibbs Racing shifted from Chevrolet to Toyota back in the, 2007?
08.
08 season, okay. That immediately put Chevrolet into a situation where they now were upset because they had a working relationship with Tony Stewart in his other forms of racing. They wanted to keep him. It was Chevrolet who actually got Gene Haas and Tony together to form what is now Stewart-Haas Racing. That was a Chevrolet thing, but they couldn't do it. They couldn't keep him because Tony Stewart realized something after a couple of years of running Chevys. He was never going to be the top dog. Hendrick Motorsports was it. That's why he's now with Ford. Then you turn around and you go later on, like you were talking about, the guy who took over for Tony Stewart, Joey Logano. Something about Joe Gibbs Racing and Joey Logano, they just didn't mesh. So he ends up leaving. He goes to Penske. And guess what he's done since then? He's won 20-something races and a championship. And then all of a sudden, that 20 car and other cars, you just started seeing this turnover. Constant turnover. The only guy who has been there, and I think he's the longest tenured Joe Gibbs Racing driver in Joe Gibbs' history, is Denny Hamlin.
Denny Hamlin has been there since the end of 2005 to now. So 17 years.
I do believe he's the longest tenured driver.
But
they've gone through Eric Jones, like you mentioned. They went through Carl Edwards. They went through Matt Kenseth. They went through Daniel Suarez. I mean, it's a meat grinder.
This is arguably, yeah, that's what I was looking at, that roster. But this is hands down Toyota's biggest botch in history.
I could agree with that. Because every single one of those drivers, and we all know the whole deal behind Tony Stewart. You know, the dude could win in practically anything and everything that you put him in as far as a driver's concerned. And other than Carl Edwards, Matt Kenseth as well, they pretty much retired after leaving Joe Gibbs Racing. But Tony Stewart leaves, he wins. Joey Logano leaves Joe Gibbs Racing, he wins. Daniel Suarez leaves Joe Gibbs Racing, he wins.
Mm-hmm.
You seeing a trend here? It's a meat grinder. There's something going on, and I don't know whether it's Gibbs. I don't know whether it's Gibbs and Toyota. I don't know whether it's Toyota. Whatever it is, whatever the mixture is, it's chewing up some drivers and spitting them out.
I think it's more Gibbs than anything because one, just think of this part. Think if Furniture Row was still around.
Yeah.
And what? It's
Barney Visser had built himself quite the team over there.
here's the same analogy that I used when Truex won his championship in 2017 that I'm going to use now. Gibbs, you look at it, Gibbs is the major league team. Furniture Row is the double A. The double A comes into the major league stadium and beats the brakes off of the major league team. Gibbs didn't like that.
No.
It was clear Gibbs didn't like that.
Uh-huh.
So look what happens a year later. Furniture Row's gone.
Yeah.
He jacks the price up of renting cars and buying cars and getting equipment to where they can't afford it.
And I'm real curious to go back to Denny Hamlin. When Denny Hamlin finally gives up his ride at Joe Gibbs Racing, whether it's to finish out his driving career at his partially owned team or whether he just shifts from driving into pure ownership, whatever it is, my question is what the relationship between Hamlin and Gibbs does to 2311 Racing at that point.
Personally, I think Denny Hamlin has got such a good relationship with Toyota alone that I don't think it's going to play a role. I think he's
But does he have to step out on his own to try and make sure that he remains as truthfully successful as they have been this year? This has been a breakout year for 2311.
Oh, sure.
2 wins in the 45. Okay.
And
One of those wins coming from the driver of the 23.
Yeah. So personally, with the way they've got these outsourcing of parts now from individual vendors and teams can't manufacture their own parts, I don't think it's going to play a role, like I said, because Hamlin's got such a good enough relationship with Toyota that I think it's going to be business as usual.
Okay.
Because if you want to get to the bare bones of it, if Michael Jordan wanted to step it up a little bit higher and get to the level or higher than Joe Gibbs, he could do it that quick.
Agreed. And he could easily take his business elsewhere because Chevrolet, Ford, heck, this unknown fourth manufacturer that NASCAR keeps talking about trying to bring in. You have Michael Jordan as a team owner in your brand?
I'll say this. If he wanted to go F1 style and have two identically branded cars, because you cannot tell me that he couldn't
He could.
slap the Jordan logo on both of his cars.
Oh, he could get Nike to do that in a heartbeat.
Nike would eat that up.
You know it.
Then look what it would do. It would force in Under Armour. It would force in Adidas. I mean, heck, it would maybe even force in Reebok.
Mm-hmm. All those different companies.
Look at the door that opens up.
Yeah. It opens up huge doors.
I mean, sure.
One more note real quick, and then we'll take a break here because Richard Childress Racing wasn't done with the whole Kyle Busch thing. No, they did not announce where Tyler Reddick was going to be next year, but they did state that they were going to let the driver of the 3-car, Austin Dillon, do this. And Dillon did announce that all members of his pit crew, the crew chief, and everybody else, all the way down to the person who's making sure that the lug nuts look proper, been signed to 5-year extensions of their respective deals and will stay with him on the 3-car. That
Stability
is huge. That's how many times do you hear that the entire crew gets a 5-year extension?
Not very often.
So that's huge.
Yep.
So with that, we'll take a break. Oh, we ain't done yet. Petty GMS Racing, we're going to talk about them. Hendrick Motorsports, we're going to talk about them. We'll get back to 2311 Racing because there's more in that situation, because what the Kyle Busch situation did does indeed affect 2311. We talked about that, kind of skirted around it. So we'll get more into detail on that. Plus, the Cup Series schedule for 2023 has come out, as did the Xfinity and the Truck Series. We'll start to break them down when we come back. We're going to take this short break here, catch our breath. We'll be back here in about 2 minutes on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Two tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey there, Steve West. We're back here on CRN Live on YouTube. Appreciate you joining us. And I mentioned this on the show last week, and I wonder if you did it. Last week we had some pretty good weather. And all this week we had really good weather, and I invited you to take a couple of minutes outside and not just enjoy the weather outside, but take the opportunity to take a really sharp, critical view of your house, the outside of it. Because when you live there, you'll see some changes over the course of time, but it's such a gradual thing that you may not realize that it might actually be quite serious. Talking about your foundation. If you didn't do it over the course of this week, it's a beautiful day today. Go outside, take that real critical look at your house. And if you've got cracks in the brick, or you've got problems inside the house where you're having trouble opening or shutting doors, opening or shutting windows, whatever it is, heck, maybe you got a slant in the floor. Put a tennis ball down on the floor and just see if it moves. And if it does, you might have a situation where you need to get your foundation checked out at the very least. You may not have a situation with your foundation, but it'd be better to know that you don't. And this is the guy that you need to contact. His name is Michael Hart. And you can phone or you can email. Get a pencil and paper out. He'll come out at no cost to you, at no obligation to you, and give you a written foundation assessment. If there's nothing wrong with it, you've got it on paper that there's nothing wrong with it. If there is, then yeah, he'll sit down, he'll explain what's going on and how much it's going to cost and what it's going to take to fix it. He'll take the time to answer your questions. 205-362-6419. If you're anywhere in the state of Alabama, call him. He'll come set up the appointment with you. Doesn't matter where in the state you are. Or you can email him, mike@oxfoundations.com. If it does turn out that you do have a problem with your foundation, make sure you remember the promo code WEST, W-E-S-T. That'll get you 15% off of the repair costs. No cost, no obligation, and 15% off if you got a problem. Michael Hart, Ox Foundation Solutions. He's your guy. 205-362-6419 or mike@oxfoundations.com. Tell him you heard about it right here on CRN. Remember, promo code WEST, 15% off. All right. Other news in the Cup Series to deal with. Petty GMS Racing, they got plans to have a new driver in the number 42. No, we don't know who it is yet. And despite claiming the win with the 43 at Darlington, things are set to change at this time, affecting the number 42. Jeremy Donnelly's out, effective immediately as of tonight. He's being replaced by Chad Norris, who becomes, at least for now, the interim crew chief on the card that, depending on how good they do throughout the rest of the year, interim could be removed. True.
He said Noah Gragson is going in next year.
Next year, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going through
I got
different things.
I got you.
It's been a week.
I'm
repeating what he said because
Yeah, no, it took me a second to realize where you were going with that because now I realize, that was a couple of weeks ago that we announced that, didn't we?
The reason I said that was because your lackluster producer forgot to turn on his mic.
Come on now.
So anyway, Donnelly was in his first year calling the shots on the 42, which, I mean, can we not agree that it underperformed this season?
Less than mediocre.
There you go. So that's leading to Ty Dillon being one and done, and Donnelly as well. And here's the good thing for this when it comes to this. There's a good side to this because you're thinking, wow, this seems like they're very, very unstable over there. No, actually, this is probably because the merger between what had been Richard Petty Motorsports and GMS Racing actually tightened the ties for the team with General Motors. And what that did is allowed Petty GMS Racing access to more experienced personnel than what they had before. So the team said that with the availability of the new potential personnel with Cup Series experience under their belts, they think it's going to lead them to trying some different combinations with the current and potential new people over the rest of the season in preparation for 2023, mostly on that 42 card. This is hey, let's throw up something against the wall and see if it sticks. And they're going to go with what's better. Noah Gragson's coming in, who's a talent. Chad Norris I say probably. Chad Norris is certainly, no disrespect to Jeremy Donnelly, but his experience means that he is much better organized and knows where he needs to take this team as opposed to what Donnelly is seeing. Donnelly is dealing with being a crew chief in his first year and all the pressures that are there. Chad Norris has been there.
Oh, yeah. He has, and he's got that much better, much better experience base.
So he can see what's working and what's not and go, hey, we need to maybe try and pick another guy who can be, and I'm just throwing it out there, the rear tire changer.
Yep, for sure. The combination of him and Dave Ellens at Petty GMS, I think it's going to pick Petty GMS up that much more.
There you go. We were thinking that this was going to be a pretty good team to begin with. It doesn't surprise me in any way, shape, or form that they are already trying to figure out ways to make that team better. As for Hendrick Motorsports, never really thought to be a factor in the Kyle Busch sweepstakes. I mean, let's face it, he'd been there before driving the number 5 car, and guess what? The 5 car, pretty much locked up. Well, we kind of thought that we knew that they were all locked in at least through 2023. The last assigned beyond 2023 was the driver of the 5 car. And I don't mean any disrespect to Kyle Busch, but are you going to turn Kyle Larson over for Kyle Busch?
No. No, and no.
With all the talent that Kyle Busch has, I see every single bit of that talent within Kyle Larson, and Kyle Larson's much younger, which means he can be there for a much longer period of time.
Yeah.
And that's what Hendrick Motorsports thought, so they have now locked him up to an extension through the 2026 season. And his primary sponsor for 35 of his points races this year, HendrickMotorsports.com, hitched their wagon to Larson. They've signed on through that same term to sponsor not only Larson's Cup efforts, but his non-Cup Series racing efforts as well. And you think to yourself, well, how much can that really do? We've talked about advertising, and it's true in our business of broadcasting as it is in racing. The sponsor, which, yes, it's HendrickCars.com, which is the whole Hendrick dealership chain. and their affiliates. For example, Tallahassee, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s name on the building, but Rick Hendricks behind it. In Franklin, Tennessee, what had been Darrell Waltrip's still has Darrell Waltrip's name on it, but it's part of the Hendrick Group. See where I'm going with this? Mm-hmm. HendrickCars.com is not necessarily just Rick Hendrick. It is a big, vast majority of things that is semi-independent, and they're claiming that their marketing investment with Kyle Larson has given them a 3-to-1 return.
I could see every bit of that. I could see every bit of it, because when you've got the HendrickCars.com sponsorship on cars that are running, even though he didn't run and participate in it last weekend, but it tracks like Eldora for late models and sprint cars, Knoxville, Iowa for late models and sprint cars, and not only that, but how Larson can go on an immediate red-hot tear in the dirt world. He's ran more sprints lately than he has late models.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Understandable. Because sprints are his wheelhouse.
Sure.
No pun intended. But when you're getting that brand outside of the tracks of like Talladega, Daytona, Charlotte, Atlanta, Kansas, Nashville, places like that, when you're getting it into what you call grassroots level, I can see the 3-to-1. I'm surprised it's not higher than 3-to-1.
So, yeah, they feel like they're getting a good investment on their sponsorship of their driver. What's the latest on Kurt Busch? Well, he's going to miss tonight's race in Bristol. He continues to recover from that concussion that he suffered in a qualifying crash at Pocono. How long ago was that? We're closing in on 2 months. No timeline has been stated for his return as Ty Gibbs continues to pilot the 2311 number 45, which changed to the number 23. Talked about that last weekend. They switched drivers for the playoffs, remember? However, a statement from team owner Denny Hamlin might have shed some light into it, as in maybe not for the rest of 2022 at all. We'll get back to debating this in a second. Let's give you the facts. Hamlin said that he believes Kurt will be back in the 45 for 2023 and promised him through the media that the car is his if he wants it. Hamlin did caution, though, that the team does have a backup plan in case he does not. We don't know exactly what that backup plan is. With all the moves regarding Kyle Busch that we just detailed, Ty Gibbs probably not going to be that option, because it seems all but certain that Ty is going to be officially announced to be the driver of the 18 next year. Kyle in the number 8 leaves Tyler Reddick without a ride at the moment. He is signed to 2311 for 2024. There's some thought, like you mentioned last segment, that this might be a play on the part of Richard Childress trying to force Toyota's hand and see if they can't work out some sort of a deal that might let him leave this Chevrolet contract early, maybe join 2311 next season. That said, neither 2311 nor Toyota said that they're planning to get into the middle of the situation just yet between Childress and Reddick. Childress did say during the Busch announcement, though, he is planning on having 3 full-time cars, 3 charters for 2023. He just didn't elaborate on it. You and I talked, I guess it was about a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
And you said that you had heard a little something about the whole Ty Gibbs, Kurt Busch situation that seems to kind of back up what Denny Hamlin just said, in that it seems fairly unlikely we're going to see Kurt Busch for the rest of this year. Why? Because they seem enamored of trying to give Ty Gibbs as much experience as possible.
It's clear that that's happening. It's clear. Because some of the subliminal messaging that Kyle Busch gave in his post-announcement pressers that he was given with individual print media, television, radio, whoever, that they've got it lined up for him to take over one of those cars. They didn't say which one, but it's pretty clearly evident he's going to go in the flagship car, the 18. All right. That's the path that they're going. But I'm afraid we've seen Kurt Busch run his last Cup race, period.
Which is possible and unfortunate.
I'm afraid of that. because now it's going to take. You haven't seen this happen since Dale Earnhardt Jr. had his concussion symptoms and his concussions from his wrecks at Michigan and Talladega. Case in point.
Right.
All right. But now it's going to take this because since Kurt had his deal at Pocono, and then some of the others have vastly and loudly complained after the incident at Daytona or the rain wreck, let's call it that. They're going to get there. It seems that's a big key word there. It seems they're getting more proactive in trying to do something of lessening these impacts.
Yeah,
what they're doing,
I would agree.
I don't know.
Yeah, they've been kind of quiet on that part.
They've been quiet, but I fear we've seen Kurt run his last race because I saw a couple yesterday. A couple of media people that are pretty tight within the sport, and their stories match, that John Hunter Nemechek is being looked at to fill a seat at 2311. Here's my question. If he's being looked at to fill a seat,
what seat?
Why? Not exactly what seat, because we know Michael Jordan will say, go get a third charter.
Oh, sure. If it comes down to that, yeah, he would.
Because of the return on his investment from the branding, just from the Jordan or Jumpman logo alone, because they're on quite a few NBA team uniforms now.
They are. But let's also look at it from this angle. Just because Kyle Busch Motorsports says that they're going to move from Toyotas to Chevrolets doesn't mean necessarily that all the drivers are going to go with him. John Hunter Nemechek.
He's under Toyota brand. Corey Heim is under Toyota. Said they're staying with Toyota. They're just finding a place, and a little bit of foreshadowing to when we do get Xfinity. I've got some opinions on that. Why is he not getting seat time in the Cup car versus Ty Gibbs? Don't add up.
No, it doesn't.
It clearly paints the narrative that Toyota is going down, and what they're going to go down, considering this is probably arguably the most historic dropping of the ball that I can remember in probably 30 years.
I could see that.
Because you really can't say Hendrick dropped the ball when Hendrick let him go from Hendrick to Toyota. You really can't say that because
he burned that bridge.
He
nuked that bridge.
He torched that bridge.
He nuked that bridge.
So, but I'll just say this: Toyota confuses me. Because when you look that they don't expand out somehow and get more teams. Here's why. Because when you look down the pipe of what Toyota's got coming through their rank and their system of their development system, this Toyota reminds me of the entire F1 ladder.
I could agree. Very
Bottlenecked, and you've got to wait on somebody to either get hurt, retire, or choke their career away before you even get a shot.
And it's also led to this, and we've seen this over the last couple of years. What 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, we saw as a glut of talent from ARCA all the way up to Cup through Joe Gibbs and his affiliated teams, Kyle Busch Motorsports and such.
Venturini, yeah.
Has suddenly turned into a much thinner talent pool because of what we just talked about. Ford Performance realized what Toyota was doing and has started to come up with a Toyota-like performance ladder. And because there are more Fords, not necessarily in the Xfinity series, but certainly in the trucks, that's coming up, and certainly in Cup series, we suddenly started to see drivers begin to leave the Toyota camp and go to Ford, at least in the truck series.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're starting to see it a little bit more in Xfinity because we got a bit of news coming up where another driver is now leaving Joe Gibbs Racing to go to another brand because he, in all likelihood, sees a better opportunity to work his way up into the Cup Series, not with Gibbs, but with another team. And there are going to be more drivers that are going to do that. And the more that happens, the quicker that happens, all of a sudden what had been an overly full cupboard for Joe Gibbs Racing suddenly becomes rather bare.
Let's just say somebody came into grandma's pantry. There were 2 bags of sugar and 1 bag of flour, and there's only the 1 bag of flour left because the 2 bags of sugar got jacked.
Bingo. All right, we'll get back to that. 2023 schedules for Cup, Xfinity, and Craftsman. Yeah, next year it'll be Craftsman Truck Series. Remember that. Were announced on Wednesday. We'll start with Cup. Things look familiar at the beginning. Clash at the LA Coliseum. Again. Daytona. And then back out west. The last time, according to Auto Club Speedway officials, that we're going to run the 2-mile version of Auto Club. Then Vegas, Phoenix, here to Atlanta. Then about halfway back across the country to Austin, Texas for COTA, first road course race of the year. Back to the East Coast for Richmond, Bristol, on dirt again. Martinsville, and then Talladega. That'll be Sunday, April the 23rd. Dover, Kansas, and Darlington. Mentioned it at the beginning of this year when they announced the 2022 schedule. Does somebody not own a map?
Dear Ben Kennedy, you can go buy maps, globes, etc. Or heck, even look on your digital device or online. Works really well.
Maps app on your phone. LA, Daytona, LA. All within a month's time. Ouch. They'll stay out there after Auto Club, which again, after they're done with that race next late February, they start transforming it into the hybrid version of Martinsville, Richmond, and Bristol combined.
Mm-hmm.
Vegas and Phoenix, so they got that little West Coast swing there. Then they come all the way back to Atlanta before they go out to Texas. Why in the world wouldn't you stop at COTA on your way to Atlanta?
It makes too much sense.
I guess. Richmond, Bristol, Martinsville, Talladega, all that's in the same basic area. Dover, Kansas, Darlington. Then, arguably the biggest track news of next year, which we talked about on the show last week, the return of the legend, North Wilkesboro Speedway hosting the All-Star Race. Had the chance last night after qualifying for the Cup Series.
Mm-hmm.
They did an episode of the Dale Jr. Download, which was all about his late model return at North Wilkesboro.
Yep.
And got some really, really good video. And I'm here to tell you, for a track that had been all but ignored from about, 1997?
96.
96 till just last year, that track surface was in remarkably good shape.
They ran... I remember they ran one late model race in 2010.
Okay.
That was it. But I agree with you on that. The track is in amazingly good shape.
Now,
the only thing,
is it going to need work? Yes, it will. Because if they're going to do regular races there, yeah, you're going to tear up that old pavement. But it held up remarkably well over the course of
the whole month of August. Now,
so,
the infrastructure, yeah, they're already working on it.
Oh, yeah.
Already. Okay. But why are we running the All-Star race on Sunday? Why?
Well, we'll get back to North Wilkesboro because they're in some news coming up in a little bit.
And another question I've got too. After the first... Now I'm gonna say the first third of the schedule.
Yeah, we can call it
that. Why are we running Bristol again on Easter?
And on dirt.
Why?
I don't get it. I don't get it either.
Run the trucks Friday night. Run the cut race Saturday night.
Yeah, because you're not running Xfinity there.
Tell us how you really feel, Matt.
Night race
at Bristol.
Friday night, Saturday night
on dirt. on that stupidly ridiculous amount of dirt that you're hauling in to cover a concrete track. Still
That
don't get that.
Tonight is going to tell the tale.
Allow me to interject here.
Oh, please do.
There are so many awesome dirt tracks available that would not take much to make ready for NASCAR.
Oh, I went to one 2 Wednesdays ago.
Why are we putting dirt on an asphalt track?
That's pretty much what we've been asking the whole time.
I'm going to interject something right here on this one. Last time I was on the grounds of Eldora Speedway in Rossburg, Ohio, was 2007. No, 2008. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Tony was getting the place in good shape because he just had acquired it.
Right.
14 years later,
It's in shape.
ooh,
It's in shape.
she's pristine, boys and girls.
But even on top of that, I mean, you and I mentioned this when it was first announced that they wanted to throw a whole bunch of tons of dirt on a concrete facility. This is an SMI track. Now, granted, not outside of Bristol, but outside of Charlotte, outside of Texas, outside of Vegas, are dedicated dirt tracks owned by SMI. Why are you spending millions of dollars throwing a whole bunch of dirt on a concrete track and then having to spend millions more to remove it so that you can go race tonight when you've got dedicated dirt track facilities that could easily host this?
I'd like to get NASCAR's brainchild that came up with this and interview them and ask them why.
It's not just NASCAR's brainchild, though.
Fox Sports.
It's Fox Sports, and it's SMI. All three of them are in cahoots, and all three of them need to sit down and go, you know what, if we're going to run a dirt race, which I'm fine with, don't get me wrong, you want to run the cup race on dirt, run a cup race on dirt. Run it on a dedicated dirt facility.
Thank you, but I'm 9:19 a.m. on September the 17th, 2022. When they see, because I'm telling you it's coming, when they see how popular and how much of a demand that North Wilkesboro is going to create, Bristol Dirt is done after 2023.
I hope so. I mean, with all due respect, I really do.
It's done. Just leave the dirt for the trucks. Take them to a dedicated dirt facility, i.e. Eldora Speedway,
There you go.
because they arguably put on some of the best, now not some of, the best dirt events
Sure.
in the duration that they've ran up there.
Yeah. And at the same time, keep your Knoxville, Iowa race, because that proved to be pretty popular.
Yeah, about that. We'll finish Cup first. We'll finish Cup and Xfinity first.
We'll circle back.
Yeah.
All right. As we mentioned, All-Star Race, North Wilkesboro, Charlotte for the Coca-Cola 600, then Worldwide Tech Raceway, Sonoma, Nashville Superspeedway, the Chicago Street Course Race, Atlanta in midsummer again.
I bring good news about that.
Yes.
That is being transitioned to a night race.
Thank God. New Hampshire, Pocono, Richmond, Michigan. The Indy Road Course is back. Watkins Glen, and then the regular season finale, which happens once again in Daytona, August the 26th, which means it'll probably be rain delayed again. Your 10 race playoffs consist of Darlington, Kansas, Bristol, Texas, Talladega on October 1st, kind of like this year. The Charlotte Roval, again. Vegas, Homestead, Miami, Martinsville, and the season finale November 5th at Phoenix. So the 10 race playoffs doesn't change.
I want to go ahead and formally apologize to my wife now. Sorry, honey, that we won't be able to take an anniversary trip for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
I'll be a little busy because the Cup race falls on what would be our 12th winning anniversary on October the 1st.
Happy anniversary.
I apologize in advance, dear. Love you.
Yeah. One more note in the Cup Series, with Ford having revealed the 7th generation Mustang for the road-going people. They took the wraps off it officially Wednesday night at the Detroit Auto Show. In addition to the road-going car, Ford unveiled renditions of the 6 racing variants from SCAA to NHRA, Australian Supercars, and NASCAR. Mark Rushbrook, the global director of Ford Performance, told Racer.com that the rollouts of the racing Mustangs will probably hit their respective tracks not for 2023, but the 2024 season. 2024 Cup Series and Xfinity cars will likely reflect the new Mustang. Obviously, they'll be a little bit different because the Cup and the Xfinity cars are, well, pretty radically different right now. But, yep, that's the new look, and it comes to the tracks 2024. Take a short break. When we come back, we'll take a look at the Xfinity. When we did the rundown, you might have remembered who's in and who's out of the playoffs for the Xfinity Series. If you don't, we'll revisit that when we come back. Thank you for checking us out on YouTube on CRN Live.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. Fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers here on a YouTube-only weekend. Weird. Thing is, probably not our last one. Foreshadowing. Xfinity Series is what we're up to now. We appreciate you joining us here. And we mentioned on the show a couple of weeks ago, Jeremy Clements and Jeremy Clements Racing hit with an L2 level penalty by NASCAR following his win at Daytona, which had put him into the playoffs. NASCAR, upon inspection of his number 51 Chevrolet, said that his intake manifold did not conform to the measurements specified in the rule book. Now, Matt and I talked about this right after it happened, and I would have understood it if the intake manifold's measurements were bigger than what NASCAR allowed.
I'll go back and explain again what he got busted for. He got busted for the face of the carburetor being too short to the front of the plenum of the intake manifold. That does not improve horsepower. It actually hurts horsepower. Because most of the time when you got people looking for really high horsepower stuff, what do? They have a high-rise intake.
Sure.
High-rise intakes versus low-rise intakes, why people go with them. All right, back to what I'm saying, though. That cuts horsepower down. It doesn't help. But when you're doing basic engine cleanup procedures, let's word it that way, and you're cleaning up, polishing, doing whatever your intake to get it back in good, solid conformation, whether you think it is or not, when you're polishing it and doing everything, it's shaving little tiny pieces off. So it gets it below certain tolerances. But it hurts way worse to have that shorter gap than it does to have that higher gap. So he wasn't benefiting from it.
Well,
he was in the right place at the right
here's
time.
my question. Is there a benefit to this in any way, shape, or form?
No.
Big picture, not just horsepower, not just torque, anything at all.
No.
Gas mileage?
actually, it may help with fuel mileage a little bit.
That's where I was going with this because, again, remember back in the carburetor days? Kids, ask your parents.
They still exist on Xfinity cars.
Yeah. Ryan Newman, remember, back when he was running for Team Penske in the 12 car, if I remember correctly, they ran a smaller carburetor than what NASCAR rules allowed for. NASCAR didn't ding him on it because as long as you weren't over the number, they were fine with it. What did Team Penske find out by running a slightly smaller carburetor on that engine? They found out that it really didn't hurt horsepower that much, but it gained them gas mileage.
Bingo.
Hello. So, with that being said, while the penalty let him keep the win on his record, it was not going to count towards the playoffs. He was going to get docked 75 owner and 75 driver points, and if he actually was able to work his way back into the playoffs, he would have had to start off at a 10-point deficit, and the crew chief, Mark Sexer, fined $60,000. As we noted, the team filed an immediate penalty right after Daytona. It was heard Tuesday of this week. They decided pretty much the same thing that we did. It didn't help you in any way. In fact, it might have hurt you except in gas mileage. So they overturned the penalty. Clements officially in the playoffs once again.
They took I don't know which one it was, but he said on SiriusXM, preparing for the appeal, that they were taking an outside engine builder with them to confirm and verify that was the case, that it did not help with horsepower. It did not help with engine performance. Battle won, because his dad is a very, very well-respected engine builder in the dirt late model ranks. A lot of people use him. So the man knows what he's doing. But taking out that outside engine builder to basically back up what's being said,
had no place else to go.
Nope.
Brandon Jones, we teased this on the move once again. Jones announced on social media Wednesday of this week he's leaving Joe Gibbs Racing. Seeing a trend here that we just mentioned, he's moving to Junior Motorsports, where he's going to take over the number 9 Camaro as the current driver of that car moves from Cup to Petty GMS Racing. That's Noah Gragson. Jones joined Joe Gibbs Racing right after the 2018 season, moving over from Richard Childress Racing. But he, like we said, just last segment, didn't see a path to get into Cup at Joe Gibbs Racing, so he's going to try a different tactic. I heard a weird rumor.
yeah,
And I don't know the veracity of this because rumors happen all the time. That Dale Jr. might be getting into Cup Series racing by becoming at least a partial owner of an existing Cup Series team. And most people are looking straight at Richard Childress Racing.
You know how far outside the NASCAR loop I am?
I do know how far you are.
I actually heard the same rumor.
Now, again, I don't know the veracity of this. I don't know how close this or how far away this could be. But it is interesting to note because there are ties, as we know, between the Earnhardt and the Childress families.
sure there is. But there's no way of that to do for Hendrick Motorsports, even though he probably could, with how Rick has Jeff Gordon basically running the show now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's got the money to do it for RCR. He doesn't quite have the money to do it for Hendrick. All right. Now, he does that. Let's just circle the wagons back around here. Childress has charter number 3 coming in this year. Earnhardt Jr. throws the money in to buy charter number 3 outright. There's the Junior Motorsports / RCR deal. But the question mark for me on this is Rick Hendrick is a partial owner in Junior Motorsports.
Mm-hmm.
Where does that go if that happens?
That is an interesting question.
If that happens.
Again, we're just going rumors. We don't know that there's any veracity or any solid ground to this, but it is an interesting thought.
But here's where you look at this right here, bullet point number 1 that I said I was going to make a point on with Xfinity when I said foreshadowing earlier. Let's say presumably, it's probably all but a given, Ty's going to one of the JGR Cup cars, whether they play a little bit of shuffling around, This driver drives this number. This driver drives that number.
Yeah.
Whatever.
In all likelihood, it'll be Ty Gibbs in the 18.
Ty Gibbs in the 18, all likelihood.
So we'll go with that presumption.
That effectively leaves JGR's Xfinity program with 0 full-time drivers.
That's interesting to note.
Gibbs, gone. Jones, gone. 18 car has been an all-star car.
Mm-hmm.
So if you leave one of them the all-star car, I see Corey Heim going to one. Sammy Smith's going to go to the other one.
Okay.
Because Sammy Smith basically inherited Michael Lynette's sponsors.
That's true.
TMC, Pilot Flying J.
Oh, because of where he was born and raised, kind of
Iowa.
like Michael Lynette,
Iowa.
Des Moines area in Iowa.
Iowa. Okay. Pretty much you say Sammy Smith's got one of those cars, whether it be 18, 19, 54, or even they bring the 20 out of mothballs.
Which I don't see that because they don't have the drivers.
Who knows? Corey Heim has got Crescent Tools, and I'm pretty sure JBL Audio would go with him.
Okay.
I could see Corey Heim going to the other one. But
Then there's John Hunter Nemechek, 2311, maybe. Xfinity, quite possible.
I see John Hunter Nemechek going over to Sam Hunt because he's already got that established relationship with
That's
Sam
true.
Hunt
He's been driving for him. Yeah, that's true.
before he goes to Gibbs.
Otherwise known as the other SHR.
Yeah. Does Sam Hunt and Joe Gibbs merge? Who knows?
Ooh, that's an interesting thought.
But
It's a lot of things still. Again, this is all the ripple effect from Kyle Busch leaving the 18 to go drive the 8.
to which Jim Campbell is sitting in a corner with his feet kicked up on the desk going, keep them coming.
Sure he is. Let's see what else we got here. When the series comes to Talladega later on this month, there's going to be one driver that has a locally connected sponsor. It's Cowlick Racing and Daniel Hemrick. They announced Wednesday of this week First Bank of Alabama going to be the primary sponsor for the Dega playoff race. Local to Talladega, the bank's been around 175 years. Congratulations on that. Marks the first for the institution in sponsoring a major motorsports event. For 2023, Alpha Prime Racing has announced Ryan Ellis, who has started 10 races for the team this season to date, might get a couple more before the end of the year, is going to run 15 races for them next year. Tommy Joe Martins, co-owner of the team, said, quote, he's one of the most reliable veterans in the entire series. To have him back next year is going to give us a little stability that we haven't had this year. Of those 10 starts, Ellis has 4 top 20 finishes. Best finish came in his first race in that car, 13th way back at Las Vegas, his first outing for the team. He backed it up with a 16th place result at Phoenix the very next week. He has driven both of the team cars, the 44 and the 45. 9 of his races have been in the 44, 1 in the 45. Martins has said that the car that Ellis will drive next year is going to be based upon which of those 2 entries finishes higher up, likelihood and owner points. The 44 is currently 25th going into last night. The 45 currently sits 31st, but didn't the 45, that's right, with Stephen Parsons, finish inside the top 10?
They did.
That race ain't over with yet. So we'll see what happens. But we've talked about stability before and how important it is, especially for a team that is really trying to get their feet under them. And Alpha Prime Racing, despite the fact that it is a couple of teams really that merged together that had Xfinity experience, this is big for them because they're still working out their working combination.
They're slowly getting their footing underneath them. Slowly.
Yeah.
But after last night, if the season was to have ended last night, he would be going to the 44 car next year.
Okay.
45 car shot from 31st to 27th last night.
Still not quite where the 44 is, but close.
Behind the 44 car by 22 points.
Not bad. Xfinity Series 2023 schedule. We just talked about the Cup Series. It largely mirrors it. Cup Series and Xfinity starts at Daytona, then goes to Auto Club, Vegas, Phoenix, Atlanta, Coda, Richmond. So they miss a couple of things in there. Notice. Well, we'll get back to it. Richmond, Martinsville, Talladega, Dover, and Darlington before they take a break and then go to Charlotte. That's right, Xfinity is not going with Cup to North Wilkesboro. Back to that later.
2-week break.
Yep. Then they go all the way from Charlotte out to Portland and then drop down the West Coast to Sonoma. This marks the first time ever the Xfinity Series has raced at Sonoma.
Weird.
Isn't it? Then they come back over to the eastern side of the country, Nashville Superspeedway. They will join the Cup Series in Chicago for street race weekend. Atlanta, New Hampshire, Pocono, Road America, Michigan, the Indy Road Course, Watkins Glen, Daytona. Don't forget, their playoffs start later than Cup. The regular season finale wraps up with Darlington and then Kansas. Their 7-race playoff schedule begins at Bristol, Texas, the Charlotte Roval. Oh, what did we miss? No Xfinity in the fall at Talladega. Where did that go?
To the Chicago street race, boys and girls.
That's round 1, Bristol, Texas, Charlotte Roval. Round 2, Vegas, Homestead, Miami, Martinsville, title race at Phoenix.
Flag on the play here.
Oh, by all means. Upon further review, soapbox time.
And this is, I'm throwing double personal foul flag on this one.
These are not concurrent. They're
Why
consecutive.
is Xfinity running 8 road course races out of 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 8 out of 33. 25% of your schedule is road courses. Secondly, when you clearly said that your support series for the Chicago street race would be the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Series.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wait. Look, no. Let's throw Xfinity cars in there and leave IMSA out of it. But you're taking away the date from your not because I'm a homer, not because it's the home game, not because it's the home stadium, turf, whatever you want to call it. Your most competitive facility that you go to.
Yep.
Your most highly, arguably, keyword arguably, your highest watched race of the year.
I mean, Fox has thought enough of the Camping World Truck Series at Talladega to put it on the main network. And the Truck Series don't end up on the main network. Really, it only happens at Talladega. For a reason.
That would be like taking the ARCA Talladega race and putting it on. You're taking, because ARCA at Talladega is one of the higher watched ARCA races of the year. I can say that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that. Fox would do something like that. Oh,
sure,
we're going to run back-to-back ARCA and trucks on Fox.
Yep.
But we're going to Chicago street race to where, we're going to find every little thing to complain about now with the Chicago street race.
Oh, I've already complained a lot.
Case in point, our article Adam Stern released from some news source in Chicago. The title of the article was this, and I quote, John, contain yourself. Shh. Don't disturb the Chicago art.
Huh. Whatever.
Yeah.
Camping World Truck Series news. We're lost in the celebration of a first-time winner at Bristol last Thursday night. A serious crash suffered by Josh Rayom was taken to a local hospital after the race Thursday. During Stage 1, Rayom, who was driving the number 43 Toyota for Rayom Brothers Racing, spun out. Raja Karuth slammed into him. The truck was too damaged to continue. Rayom was able to get out of the truck under his own power, but after being checked out of the infield care center, they decided things were a little bit more serious, transported him to a local hospital, Bristol Regional Medical Center, where he underwent a CT scan. According to a statement from the team released just yesterday, Friday, it added this, quote, he was diagnosed with a concussion and will be following up with a neurologist to confirm no further injury. He's been discharged, wants to thank everyone for the well wishes. We hope he does get back soon.
Absolutely.
Another bit of news from the Thursday night race at Bristol. It was the final one for driver Jesse Little behind the wheel in this series. Little announced on his personal social media Wednesday it was going to be his last time with Young's Motorsports and the Truck Series, saying, quote, "I'm excited to begin a new career after this weekend's race at Bristol. While I won't be climbing in race cars anymore, I'll still be at the track. And I look forward to seeing you all there." Foreshadowing of something coming?
Well, considering his dad, Chad, is one of the directors of NASCAR series, I could see that happening.
I guess we'll find out. Craftsman Truck Series 2023 schedule breakdown begins at Daytona in mid-February. Not a shock there. Goes out to Vegas before taking a couple of weeks off. Then Atlanta. Then COTA. Then Texas. Unlike Xfinity, they'll be joining the Cup Series on Bristol Dirt Weekend. They'll race at Martinsville, Kansas, and Darlington. From there, they get in on the fun of running with the Cup Series on All-Star Weekend. They're going to run at North Wilkesboro. Run at Charlotte, Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway, Nashville Superspeedway, Mid-Ohio. They get to go to Mid-Ohio. Nice. Pocono and Richmond. Richmond will mark their final race of the regular season. 7-race playoffs. Holds their first round at Lucas Oil Raceway in Indy. You were just up there.
Good move.
Milwaukee Mile comes back.
Hello.
So happy to see the Milwaukee Mile back. And Kansas. Round 2, Bristol, Talladega, the meat in the middle of the sandwich, Homestead, Miami, and then your title clinching race after a week off will be, as with the others, at Phoenix Raceway.
Trucks are running Mid-Ohio the same weekend Cup and Xfinity's in Atlanta.
As noted, the series does return to the famed Milwaukee Mile. Milwaukee Mile hasn't hosted a major NASCAR race since 2009, when non-payment of a sanctioning fee led to the Xfinity Series looking elsewhere. They landed at Road America. That switch back effectively with the Truck Series has been rectified. Again, I'm thrilled that Milwaukee Mile's back because it's a great classic, one of the oldest race courses in the entire country. Happy to have them back on the schedule.
My outlook of the
Truck
Series schedule. Truck Series schedule.
Yeah, they got this one right.
Bravo.
They got this one right.
Bravo.
I mean, you think about it. They got a couple of road courses. They've got, obviously, COTA early on in the year. And then later on in the year, they go to Mid-Ohio. That's about right for the Truck Series.
Probably the only thing I would have done, personally, I would have left Bristol Dirt out.
That's our favorite on the chopping block this show. Can't you tell?
Send them back to Eldora.
Yeah.
Send them back to Eldora.
Well, we mentioned Knoxville. Why not Knoxville?
Knoxville, for me, is too flat.
I could see that.
Too flat. Knoxville is more of a sprint car track than anything.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're talking something as big and bulky as the trucks, they need a little bit of banking.
Eldora was fantastic. But
have they burned that bridge? Has NASCAR burned that bridge with smoke?
If it ain't burnt, it's soaked in gas.
Yeah, all right.
It is soaked. I don't know what happened or what went on with that, but yeah, I
We'll
would
have to see. Figure out maybe how to smooth that back out.
The only thing I would do with trucks, there are 1, 2, let's say 3, 4 sections within that schedule that are nearly a 1-month gap in between races.
Yeah, it's an amazingly wildly inconsistent schedule that a few years ago we noticed how it was kind of backloaded.
Oh, very.
Very back heavy. In other words, the second half of the season was when they got all the races in, and it should be spread out over the course of using the Cup Series schedule as your basic template. It should be set out and laid out much more evenly over the run of the Cup Series schedule.
Just like the playoffs. August 11th, race 1. August 27th, race 2.
Okay.
That's 16 days.
Yep.
They're running at Milwaukee on a Sunday. Okay. Week between Milwaukee and Kansas. A week between Kansas and Bristol.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks between Bristol and Talladega.
Yeah.
3 weeks between Talladega and Homestead.
It's a long time to be off. It's hard to get any momentum going with that.
Very.
Let's take a short break. When we come back, we just mentioned Smoke, Tony Stewart. If you liked what you saw last week, you're going to like what you see this week when it comes to the NHRA on Fox. Foreshadowing. I think I pretty much gave it away, but we'll detail it when we come back here on CRN Live.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Four tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back in CRN Live on this college football weekend here where our FM signal has been hijacked from us. But we appreciate you checking us out here on CRN Live, and we're into the NHRA news. And if you enjoyed Tony Stewart joining the Fox NHRA broadcasting crew at the Indianapolis Raceway Park a couple of weeks ago, you get more, because he's going to join him again this weekend for the finals tomorrow at Maple Grove Raceway in Pennsylvania. Big weekend for the NHRA. As we noted during the rundown, Fox is showing the finals. They're butting the NHRA finals up against the late afternoon NFL game. If there ever was one, this is a high-profile time slot.
Hey, NBC, take notes.
Yeah. The broadcast from Indianapolis with Smoke in the booth drew in 840,000 viewers. That's a 10% jump up over the same broadcast in 2021, part of which Fox does attribute to having Smoke in the broadcast booth, and they're hoping that the magic continues this weekend. As for the facility itself, Maple Grove Raceway in Reading, Pennsylvania, the Koretsky family, led by veteran NHRA racer Kenny Koretsky, said that he and his family have been hard at work with renovations and upgrades to the track and all of the facilities, several of which are ready to be unveiled for this weekend's first race in the countdown to the championship. The thing's already done. They've updated the control tower and the tower that holds the VIP suites. Both of those have been completely renovated, they said. They're working on a new sound system for the entire facility. Phase 1 is done in time for this weekend. Exactly what Phase 1 involves, they didn't detail. Also in progress, new LED lighting all around. That's huge. repaving the upper parking lot as well as the top end of the track, the turnoff area, which has also been widened, by the way, to 35 feet, as well as repaving the start line. They've put in 11 new RV camping spots. They have plans to add 30 more to that area before next year's weekend as the renovations continue. They are making a big investment into that track. And here's the thing. It's needed because what we have seen is that the NHRA is willing to move on even from heritage tracks if they feel like they're not keeping up with facilities. If it's not a nice enough facility, and I'm not going to use the Formula One grade 1, but if they don't feel like the facilities are up to snuff, they'll say bye-bye and they'll go find someplace else to race.
I'm going to say this right here. Seeing last week, feels like 2 weeks ago, seeing very first ever NHRA facility live.
Yeah, in action. I mean, we're on the grounds at ZMAX, but they weren't racing.
Facility-wise, you cannot beat ZMAX.
No.
You can't. IRP is not as lavish as one thinks.
No.
It's small.
I've been on the grounds. I haven't been there for an NHRA race, but I've been on the grounds.
It's small. The control tower, which I was in for a little while, it's not huge. But NHRA owns IRP.
Oh, yeah. They're not going to leave.
They're not leaving there.
No. But for the tracks that they don't own, they'll turn you over.
Yeah, they will. But, and I've even been on the grounds of Atlanta Dragway. It's even smaller.
Which is why they're no longer on the NHRA Camping World Truck Series schedule, Camping World Drag Racing Series schedule.
So NHRA, yeah, they will turn you over in a heartbeat.
Because they realize something. They are kind of like Indycar and Formula One. They're on the upswing when it comes to television viewership here in the United States of America. And they have, all of them, been taking a back seat to NASCAR, not for just for years, for decades. They're seeing the fact that they have the ability to where they're starting to regain some of that viewership on television and, quite frankly, in the stands as well. And they want the facilities to show that they are a world-class motorsports series.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So Maple Grove Raceway is doing the right thing. What other tracks are going to put the same investment into it? That becomes the question. And when does Tony Stewart buy his first drag race facility? He seems to be involved in almost everything else.
I-85, the Commerce exit. Then if you're coming from Charlotte, hang a right, go right over the hill behind the Wendy's, take that road behind the Wendy's, right over the little hill. That's a little place called Atlanta Dragway. Smoke, there you go. Or there's a little place just right down, let's see, Quintard Avenue, right out here outside of the flagship station. Turns into Highway 21, Alabama Highway 21.
It does.
Run to Alabama Highway 21, all the way to a little town we like to call Montgomery, Alabama. Okay. You go to where the eastern bypass is. Excuse me, the northern bypass.
Yeah.
You hang a right on the northern bypass and go to where the western bypass is that goes down to I-65. You go down to probably about a mile. Right out to the right, there's a little place called Montgomery Motorsports Park that I fully believe is more than capable of hosting an NHRA race.
Yeah, it's a nice facility. Little bit of upgrading, you'd have a world-class facility right there. Oh, let's turn our attention to some open wheel because, hey, in case you missed it, they crowned a champion last weekend. Not a whole lot, actually, could outperform winning a title for the headline news in the series, but while we do congratulate Will Power for claiming his second career series title, the biggest news likely is that Pato O'Ward and Chip Ganassi Racing smooth things over, and they're going to be working together again next year.
Interesting.
I have to admit, I didn't see that coming.
Absolutely.
He posted a tweet early Wednesday morning, Pato O'Ward did, said, quote, "I'm excited to announce Chip Ganassi Racing and I have come to an agreement. I'll be back in the 10 car next season. Looking forward to a big 2023. Kind of like the ripple effects that we were talking about when it came to the whole Kyle Busch announcement.
Sure.
These aren't as big, but it does create some, as the old saying goes, actions create equal and opposite reactions.
Yep.
How does this affect the rest of 2023? Palou staying at CGR means that Aero McLaren SP had to figure out what they were going to do with the car that would have been Palou's. So they're going to keep Felix Rosenqvist at least for 2023, marking each driver's third season with those respective teams. So the Aero McLaren SP lineup for 2023 is Rosenqvist, along with Pato O'Ward, and coming over from Andretti Autosport, Alexander Rossi, expanding the team out to 3 full-time rides.
Mm-hmm.
As for Power, back to his championship move, he was able to survive an evolving tire strategy. It's kind of based upon the moves of the other contenders. He claimed, as noted in the recap, third in the race, more than good enough to win the points title. 16 points was the gap at the end. This is his second, his first coming in 2014. The day after, he set the all-time series record for pole positions. That's right. He came in Saturday last weekend, claimed the pole for the season finale, marked his 68th career pole position, broke the tie at the top of the list with the legend Mario Andretti, who's now second with 67. Just seems weird that Mario Andretti is second, not to AJ Foyt.
Yeah. That's interesting.
But congratulations to Will Power on that. He was consistent all day. He needed, since he only won the race this year for Team Penske, if you only win one race, consistency is the key. Claiming points week in, week out, week in, week out. 12 top 5 finishes out of 16 races is going to do that for you.
Oh, no doubt.
3 more top 5 results than any other series driver. Was one of only 2 drivers, Scott Dixon being the other, to have finished every single lap of the 2022 season. So you finish every race. You have more top 5s than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
That'll do it. Congratulations. Second-time winner. And it wouldn't necessarily be out of the realm of possibility to think that he is easily up for a title next year. I mean, I get it. You got Joseph Newgarden, you got Alex Palou, you got Pato O'Ward, you got some of the young guns, Joseph Newgarden vying for his 4th. Will Power and Scott Dixon, who has 6 in his pocket, remember, don't count them out. These guys know how to race still.
Oh, no.
And they're proving it week in and week out. We have noted over the past few years here on this show, IndyCar does continue to increase their TV audience year over year. The majority of their 2022 races, congratulations to NBC, at least put those on the main network. So yeah, the increase in viewership continued. In fact, NBC numbers show that 2022 was the most watched season overall since 2016. That was back when a lot of the races were on ABC, remember? And it's the network's most watched series to date, or season to date. Between NBC and the race, 2 races, I think, on USA, and the one that they only showed on Peacock, NBC's ratings showed an average of 1.3 million viewers per race, up from 1.24 million viewers last year. Half of the races this year had viewership north of 1 million viewers, the highest number in a season since 2008. Season opener at St. Petersburg, the most watched season opener since 2011, and marked it as the most watched non-Indy 500 race over that same time frame. IndyCar coming up in the world.
They're climbing.
As for the 2023 schedule, it hasn't been finalized yet, but it does appear that Texas Motor Speedway is going to be back. Racer.com reported this week that negotiations between IndyCar and TMS officials produced a contract extension for multiple years, continuing a partnership that actually dates back 27 years and some 36 races. Statement from Texas Motor Speedway read in part, quote, "The NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series returns as the first race of a weekend doubleheader with the NTT IndyCar Series Saturday, April the 1st, after 3 years apart. The 2 series ran a doubleheader weekend together at the Speedway from 97 through 2019. They're saying that the 2023 schedule expected to be 17 races long, up 1 from this year. It's due out soon. Okay, whatever soon means. I'm not trying to belittle. I mean, again, all I'm doing is literally quoting what the Texas Motor Speedway schedule is. What you do is you have to read into it. It's kind of like watching some of these superhero movies or superhero television shows.
Yep.
Because you get these little Easter eggs that are in there that tell you, oh, by the way, this is coming. Their commentary on the Truck Series coming back included that IndyCar was coming back. So there's your Easter egg.
Yep.
I guess we can go ahead and do Formula One. You want to take a break?
I don't care. Doesn't matter to me.
I'll leave it up to the producer. John, we take a break?
We can, or we can go on.
I'll tell you what. We'll make the transition easier. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll flip over to Formula One. We still got a lot to talk about. But guess what? We're 2 hours into the show, and we ain't done yet because it's a YouTube-only show, and you're checking us out, and we thank you for doing it right here on CRN Live on YouTube.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. 4 tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back into the show here. Strangely enough, hour 3. I could get used to this. Let's transition over here to Formula One. I'm Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers over there, making things run as capably as possible. Pardon our technical problems. You know, it's our first time doing YouTube only. What do you want? We mentioned the fact that Alex Albon missed the race last weekend to be replaced by Nick DeVries. We talked about that on the show. Nick DeVries actually did something that the regular driver for Williams still hasn't done, and he's been there since, what, the 2019 season?
Yep.
Nick DeVries, in his first time out, got a top 10 finish. Now, first of all, the reason Albon wasn't driving was actually much more serious than initially reported. The initial reports only stated he wasn't feeling well. That's an understatement. He went to the hospital. He was initially diagnosed with appendicitis. He underwent emergency surgery to have it removed and then suffered complications in the aftermath. He suffered respiratory failure. Ouch. Anyway, He had to be put on a ventilator, so he spent Sunday night in the ICU. He was taken off of the ventilator on Monday, remained in the hospital for observation, reportedly recovered well enough, and was discharged on Tuesday. And get this, despite his scare, Albon says he wants to be back as soon as possible. He's actually targeting the next race, Singapore, the last weekend of this month, Talladega weekend.
That's it. I seen he had something. I didn't know it was respiratory failure. I saw something he had appendicitis.
Mm-hmm. That was the start of it.
Wow.
Underwent the surgery, suffered respiratory failure.
My goodness.
Anyway, so he wants to return to his Williams entry the very next race at Singapore. In the meantime, said he's happy to have the talent, the quality of DeVries on hand just in case he can't make it back by then. Following Singapore, the next weekend will be the Japanese Grand Prix, and then they'll take a week off traveling, heading to North America for the United States race. I guarantee he'll be back by the U.S. Grand Prix. Singapore might be a stretch. Doctors are going to be very, very careful with this situation.
Sure.
I can guarantee it.
For sure.
I mean, the travel effect to Singapore, going from Singapore to Japan is not the problem. Going from his home in Europe to Singapore, that could create some travel. Travel could create some difficulties.
No doubt.
So we'll see.
No doubt.
As for the aforementioned Formula E and Williams reserve driver Nick DeVries, he told media this week, this could be foreshadowing, by the way, that his turn behind the wheel at Monza in the Italian Grand Prix felt more than just him filling in. He said, quote, anytime you get a chance to drive a Formula One car, it's kind of a job interview and an audition. Well, if it was, and quite frankly, we believe that to be true here on this show, hey, Nicholas Latifi, you're officially on notice. That's what we were talking about at the beginning of the show. If you joined us back at 8 o'clock when we said this seat isn't white hot, it is melting underneath of Nicholas Latifi. And it seemed to be backed up by a comment made by Williams team principal Jost Capito. It seems to foretell that his time, Latifi's time at Williams, is just about done. Yesterday, he got on to a conference call with media and said that DeVries was already on the team's short list for a 2023 seat before he claimed the top 10 finish in his debut in the Italian Grand Prix. Capito said that he was impressed with what he figured out in such a short time with the car, adding, quote, we'll see what his, talking about, obviously, DeVries' situation is. He has other commitments as well. It's up to him to see what's possible. So we'll see what's happening. He's always been on the short list. No disrespect to Formula E, but if I'm a Formula E driver who suddenly gets a call from a Formula One team and says, you want to drive for us? I know where I'm going.
Yep. There's no question about that one. No question about it.
And here's what the new owners, because it's really Williams in team name only.
Yeah.
This team that was started by Sir Frank Williams, who's now unfortunately no longer with us, and was kind of run into the ground by his daughter has been sold outright. The Williams family has no connection whatsoever to the current Williams operation. It's owned actually by an American company, strangely enough. A financial company, anyway. But they are treating it and they're going after it in pure F1 form. They have put in a lot of people. They've been able to snag some people from Mercedes and from, I think, the Renault/Alpine operation and others. And they've really seemed to have created a really good infrastructure, at least in the non-driving aspect of it.
Yeah.
And now that they've got the engineers and all the front office staff and all that kind of stuff all set up, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're ready to build a new headquarters, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Now that they've got all that stuff settled in, now they're suddenly going, okay, here's the final piece of the puzzle, and it's getting our driver situation settled. Alex Albon was a home run. Talked about the situation with Toyota in NASCAR, and it was bottlenecked. Red Bull's kind of the same way. Red Bull has a lot of talented drivers signed to drive for them in varying series, not just F1, but F2 and F3 and other series that could potentially feed into Formula One.
Yeah.
But they only got 4 seats to put them in. 2 at Red Bull, two at AlphaTauri. That's it. That's all they got. They ain't got no more. And you get a talented driver like an Alex Albon who suddenly finds himself on the outside looking in. Great pickup by Williams. He was the guy that had scored all their points to date until Nick DeVries comes in. Nicholas Latifi is a guy that they inherited from the old Williams organization. They ain't going to stick with him long.
No.
Again, the man's been in since the 2019 season, we think. Maybe 2018?
Something like that, yeah.
We're talking 3 or 4 full seasons. You haven't scored one single championship point. Think about this for a second. Last year, Haas F1 went through a year where they effectively punted on the entire year. They had 2 rookies driving for them last year. We all know about the situation between Russia and Ukraine, and we all know why one driver is no longer with them. In year 2, the year after, where they still say that the car is an evolving process, the guy who was a rookie last year, Mick Schumacher, has points this year, ahead of Nicholas Latifi, who's got multiple years of experience under his belt in favor of him. Yeah. Sorry, folks. You're only going to get so many chances in the racing world. And I don't care whether it's F1, IndyCar, NASCAR, the NHRA, FormulaE, SCCA, whatever your series you're talking about. Ownership is only going to go so far with you until you either start winning races or you're gone. And you're the driver here. You know it just as well as I do. Yeah. I've seen it from the media side. You know it from the driver's side.
If you don't get on it, that seat's gonna get uncomfortable. No matter how you look at it from a performance side, but I'm finally glad Capito's seen the light at the end of the tunnel. Because especially when you've got a Formula E. Let me rephrase that. Let me reset it. A Formula E competitor.
Who really has never run a Formula One car.
That has really never sat in an F1 car and turned competitive laps. Comes out and scores points.
In his first race.
Yeah, race 1.
Yikes.
Come on, guys.
Yeah. Changes are going to be made in the offseason. I see it coming.
Yep.
I see it coming. As for the aforementioned AlphaTauri, they've been involved in another big story that's been developing over the past couple of weeks. We mentioned on the show last week, in fact, they could be interested in trying to bring Colton Herta on to race for them in 2023 if they did not re-sign Pierre Gasly. Gasly's actually under contract with Red Bull to drive for AlphaTauri through the 2023 season, but there have been some reports coming out of European sports press that had the team buying out the remainder of his contract in favor of Herta. That would have been another ripple effect thing. It actually had begun a connection that thought Gasly might be able to join Alpine for next year, but would obviously leave that seat at AlphaTauri open. Red Bull's team boss, Christian Horner, talked about Gasly this week and said this, quote, flat out, "Look, he's a Red Bull racing driver on loan to AlphaTauri. There's a lot of moving plates at the moment, which we follow with interest. We'll see how it pans out. There's a few moving plates." That major plate that he was talking about specifically was about Colton Herta. Herta's problem, which we've talked about over the last couple of weeks, he doesn't have the required 40 points to attain his F1 super license. That is the key to a possible situation that would result in him driving for AlphaTauri and Gasly becoming bought out in a free agent. Horner said, quote, "That's a key element. You're not going to release Pierre if you don't have something exciting to put in that car." Now, obviously, all this affects AlphaTauri, who's being, yes, the sister operation, but they're kind of trying to have it as their own independent operation. AlphaTauri's team boss, Franz Tost, told media, quote, "I don't know him," talking about Herta. "I've never seen him. I don't care which driver Red Bull gives me. It's my job to educate him. That's it, whoever it is." Okay, so effectively you just punted.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's where I announce that I'm going to get my super license to go drive for AlphaTauri.
There you go. What about the American driver, Colton Herta, driving for an American team? Because Haas F1 boss Gunther Steiner was actually asked about this situation. Could they be thinking about Herta? Steiner said, quote, "He's not on the list at the moment because he hasn't got the super license, you know?" He then added, quote, "But I said, I think we're looking more to somebody who has driven already in Formula One." Talked about that Easter egg situation a little bit ago. Here's one for you. We'll get back to it in a second. Steiner continued on, "We have done the rookie bit last year, and in the moment, we look more to somebody who has already been in F1. So maybe, therefore, he didn't make the list. Mick is, as well, is still in the running because that'll be the next question. So in the end, we just go through the motions. We want to wait a few more races. Mick did a very good job in Canada, Austria, and Silverstone, and since then, the car was not at par. As I said, we're in no hurry to do anything at the moment. He's already said we're probably not going to make any moves until after this 2022 season comes to an end." So Mick Schumacher's still in the running, and Mick Schumacher doesn't have a whole lot of options at this particular point in time.
No.
Let's face it.
He does not.
As for Colton Herta, his dream of moving to Formula One, done. Not going to happen. Not yet. Red Bull officials dropped their petition for a super license waiver. Herta, as noted, 32 of the 40 points needed to attain the F1 super license, but with the pandemic situation within a small window for a potential waiver consideration, Red Bull officials had been talking to the FIA and were interested in seeking one of those for Herta. But apparently somebody inside Red Bull learned that it appeared very unlikely that FIA officials were willing to give the approval for the said exemption, so they decided not to pursue it any further at this point. Likely means that Pierre Gasly remains at AlphaTauri to at least fulfill the final year of his contract. So where do we go from here? Well, Alpine, missing out on Oscar Piastri, who leaves their organization at the end of this year to go to McLaren for 2023. Really, it only leaves Alpine with the one empty seat that we know of. Fernando Alonso is departing there to go to Aston Martin. Alpine would have liked to have cut a deal to bring Pierre Gasly over from AlphaTauri, but as we said, they're only going to let Gasly go if they can ink Colton Herta. We know that's not going to happen. So what are your options? Well, if you're Alpine, you could revisit where you had been a couple of years ago, Daniel Ricciardo. We're hearing that they might not be willing to go back down that road.
I see option 3 coming up right here being the better one.
Potentially Mick Schumacher, who, again, could be leaving Haas F1 at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, there's a lot of people talking about bringing one Nico Hülkenberg back into Formula One as a driver full-time.
Makes sense.
Alpine CEO Laurent Rossi appears to be in no hurry either, said that the team would prefer an experienced F1 driver, but they would be interested in Nick de Vries. They also mentioned they would be interested in Formula 2 racer Jack Doohan. Doohan has won multiple races in F2, but claims the team, again, they're in no hurry. We're hearing that a lot lately. Haas F1 and Alpine in no hurry. And I understand why. I mean, again, if you've got AlphaTauri and Red Bull, they're set. If you got Mercedes, they're set. Ferrari's set. Alfa Romeo, despite the fact that they're probably going to go back to being called Sauber at the end of the 2023 year, they appear to be set. Really, everybody appears to be set except for the likelihood that Nicholas Latifi is going to be out at Williams, which if they don't lock up Nick DeVries in a hurry, I'd be shocked.
True.
You have
Very
the open
true.
seat at Alpine that Fernando Alonso is going to be vacating at the end of the year. And then you've got one of the seats at Haas F1 that seems to be up for grabs, at least at this point in time. We know Kevin Magnussen's going to be back. The question is the car that Mick Schumacher's in right now. That's really it. Everybody else seems pretty locked in.
Yep. The Alpine deal, I'm going to hedge my bets on Nico Hülkenberg.
And the funny thing is not only has he been linked to Alpine, he has been linked to, if Mick Schumacher leaves, Haas F1.
True.
As has Daniel Ricciardo. So in this case, if Gunther Steiner's desire is to have an experienced racer, he appears to have two options there. Ricciardo and Hülkenberg.
I'll take Ricciardo all day long.
And even if he just sits in the back and waits for Alpine to make their decision, whether it's Ricciardo or Hülkenberg,
Yeah.
you can't really go wrong with either one.
You really
I
can't.
don't think.
You really can't, but I see the latter before the former.
So here comes the question. Mick Schumacher is going to be an F1 driver next year. Where is he?
I could see somebody the likes of Williams getting him.
Which would throw Nick DeVries suddenly up for option.
True.
So if let's assume that Mick Schumacher goes to Williams, Nick DeVries suddenly becomes, as noted, an option for Alpine, but they would rather have an experienced driver. So do they take the swing on Nick DeVries and go young, or do they go veteran, and which one? We're playing matchmaker here, boys and girls. We're not saying this is going to happen. We're saying that this is what Matt sees. So assuming Mick Schumacher goes to Williams, where do we go from there? Who's at Alpine next year?
I'm gonna stick to my guns and say Nico Hülkenberg.
Which puts
Ricciardo at Haas F1.
Ricciardo and Kevin Magnussen. After a full year where they came out like a house on fire and then had the opportunity to get double points for 2 races in a row in the middle of the year, and it's continuing work in progress where they get another year under their belt.
Yeah.
We'll see if it happens. We've been pretty good at this before. Be interesting to see if we're actually good enough on it this time.
We'll see.
Oh, my gosh. We'll get back to the call. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll take a break. McLaren, willing to continue despite the fact that he's not going to get an F1 super license. They're going to give Herta a run along with his fellow IndyCar driver, Pato O'Ward, in what the FIA says is a testing of previous cars program. So McLaren is going to grab both of the IndyCar drivers, put them in F1 rides the weekend of the Spanish Grand Prix. Herta and O'Ward will drive 2021 McLaren racers on that track. Chip Ganassi Racing, as we talked about, smooth things out with Alex Palou. And he's kind of cleared for some things later on as well. So O'Ward and Herta getting opportunities behind the wheel of a last year spec car. Honestly, Alex Palou has said that he would be interested in doing this as well. I kind of think he wouldn't be too far behind.
Agreed. He's going to be really, really close if he's not really 1 or 2 steps behind him now. He's very close.
I would agree.
So,
and with him having an IndyCar championship under his belt, that's pretty attractive as well.
Very, very.
Oh, the wheels turn. That's why we love doing this show.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, Ferrari looked a little bit different last weekend, but you might not have been able to put your thumb on exactly what it was. We'll give you all the details of it because it was a one-race only deal. We'll tell you about it next as we return right here on our YouTube-only version on CRN Live.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Four tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
If you were watching the race last weekend in Italy, the Italian Grand Prix at Monza, Ferrari had a splash of yellow across the engine cover. If you were trying to figure out what was different, that was it. Had some black striping on it and some black lettering as well. The reason why they chose to do that is, well, first, it is the 75th anniversary of Ferrari as a race and car company. Secondly, the yellow is a nod to the hometown of Modena. It's the hometown of the company's founder, Enzo Ferrari. You might notice that, well, you probably didn't notice this. The city has a coat of arms. It's yellow and black. That's why the Ferrari logo has a yellow background. It's a nod to Modena. Rarely has Ferrari ever used yellow in their company-owned cars, but Ferraris that have been owned and operated by others have been known to use yellow as their primary color. Ferrari chose red from the beginning because that's, and who knew they had this, it's Italy's official racing color. They have a official country racing color in Italy. It's red. Ferrari tagged it. I get it. Enzo himself said that thinking of the look of the Ferrari logo, it was to make sure that the prancing horse was and always will be black, and then said, quote, I added the canary yellow background, which is the color of Modena. That look last weekend, one race only. So if you missed it, go back and check out some video.
Thank goodness.
It's pretty good. It was an okay-looking car, but it was very weird to see it.
Very.
We've had some people say that they wanted to see the yellow continue on the rear wing. He's not sold.
No.
On the heels of the announcement that Audi and Sauber were going to set to combine forces in 2026 when the new engine regulations were set to take effect, it was thought that the rumored Red Bull Porsche alignment would then be confirmed. Yeah, not only has it not been confirmed, it is now apparently off the table with little to no hope of resurrection. Wow. Helmut Marko, Red Bull's motorsport advisor, recently talked to F1Insider.com and said, quote, Porsche will not become a shareholder in us. Originally, it was thought that Porsche would purchase a significant share of the Red Bull operation and then become the official brand of their engine. But now it appears that about all that Porsche can hope for is to become an official brand of engines that Red Bull and AlphaTauri use without becoming a shareholder in the team. But that might be a deal breaker for Porsche. Porsche made it very clear that their desire coming into Formula One is to be, like Audi, at least a team partner, if not outright owner. It's not known where Porsche could turn. Pretty much all the other teams are either already company-owned, see Ferrari, Mercedes, or Alpine, or locked into long-term deals as engine customers of Ferrari, Mercedes, or Renault.
Interesting.
There could, that's your key word in this, could be a lifeline here in what seems to be a rather hopeless Andretti Autosport F1 entry. If Audi and Porsche were to combine forces, it might help grease the skids of what otherwise seems to be a non-mover when it comes to Andretti, because this would bring a new engine manufacturer into the sport, with both F1 and FIA officials state that they're both interested in. But insiders said that they believe it's a long shot. Porsche more likely to work with an existing Formula One team. Again, don't know who they're going to go with, but they want to try to do that. And again, this leaves Andretti Autosport on the outside and a very loud Michael and Mario Andretti screaming to the hills, dude, we've got everything set up for it. You're just going to play with your own ball and make us go home.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bad move on the part of Formula One.
Bad move.
Horribly bad move. You want to... They have said for years now, since Liberty Media, the American-based company, took ownership into Formula One's commercial rights, that they wanted to have more of a presence here in the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
Haas F1 is an American-owned company, team. They've got 3 next year races in Formula One in the United States. A second US-based team, it's because the other 10 teams are going, but that'll eat into our prize allocation money at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. Oh, boo frickin' who?
Oh, darn.
You're wrong. Mercedes and Williams and Ferrari and all the other teams that are complaining. You need to get over yourselves. Having Mario and Michael Andretti back in your fold does nothing but good things for you guys.
Bingo.
As for Andretti's efforts in Formula E, which is where we turn here, Avalanche Andretti will soldier into next season, which does begin in January, by the way, with one of their 2022 drivers returning. Jake Dennis has signed a new multi-year deal with the organization. Started driving for them in the 2020 year. He was the Rookie of the Year in the series that year, won 2 races, and finished 3rd in the final points that year. Dennis is now all of 25 in what is being termed the 2021-2022 season. Got 1 win in London and 2 other podium finishes on his way to claiming 6th in the final points. That was well outperforming his teammate Oliver Askew. Askew could only claim 2 top 10s. He was 16th in final points. And that means Oliver Askew's gone. So, with his new deal Jake Dennis he's got a new partner as well. This is a nice little coup on the part of Avalanche Andretti. They signed Andre Lauderer. Lauderer's raced 5 seasons in Formula E, 3 of them at Tag Heuer Porsche, where he scored 4 second-place results, but no wins. Avalanche Andretti's a Porsche customer, so he actually remains with him in that way. Lauderer said, quote, "I'm excited to be joining Avalanche Andretti for Season 9 and the start of the Gen 3 era. Remember, all new batteries next year coming in. Working together with Jake will be a great combination to continue to push the team to the front of the field in Formula E," which would be a nice thing for Michael Andretti because it's been a while since they've been up there. Michael Andretti said in a statement he was excited to bring Lauderer's experience to the team, which should help the team make the next step into becoming the champions he wants them to be. As for Askew, we don't know what's next. As mentioned, he claimed 2 top 5s in the final 2 races, so it looked like things were kind of turning the corner, but he's out. He says he's hoping to return to the United States and continue his racing career, maybe in IMSA, possibly in IndyCar. He did win the Indy Lights title in 2019, and then racing for Arrow McLaren Racing SP and Ed Carpenter Racing. He's also run the 24 hours of Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona with Riley Motorsports, so he's got some experience both in IndyCar and in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Series. Mm-hmm. We'll have to see, and since the Formula E season ended, Askew has been in and around the IndyCar paddock. He was coaching Chip Ganassi's development driver, Kiffin Simpson, He's running full-time in Indy Lights this year and have a part-time INSA schedule. He talked to Racer.com just before the season ended, said, quote, IndyCar racing's where I grew up, what I grew up aspiring to do, and to have that opportunity to chase that dream, a long, successful IndyCar career, it's all I've ever wanted. I'm trying to come back here. I feel like this is my home. IndyCar is expanding out. But we're not hearing of a whole lot of really available seats. It seems like as soon as a team talks about expanding out, they have a driver linked to that seat, if not outright assigned to it.
Yeah. That's I agree with you on that. Names are there, but seats are not there.
Yeah.
So,
I wish you all the best of luck, Oliver. I really do. It looks like your best bet, at least for the short term, might be to go to IMSA and then fight maybe to get a ride in the Indy 500 when teams expand out to try and make sure we got a 33-car field. And then you better impress.
yeah, for sure.
Because if you don't impress in the Indy 500, you're not going to get many more shots.
You ain't going nowhere.
You ain't going to get many more shots.
No.
Over at Mahindra Racing, they're in need of a new CEO and team principal because Dilbagh Gill is leaving the team. He's been with the operation since the debut season in those dual roles of CEO and team principal. He's seen 5 race wins over that time, the most recent one, 2021 in London, when Alex Lynn drove a car to victory. Along with new CEO and team principal, the team has signed Oliver Rowland, but Alexander Sims left the team in his place. This is not a bad fill-in. The 2016-2017 season champ Lucas deGrassi comes in, so that's a good one. We'll have to see whether that helps them out next year. Then the perennial doormat team of Formula E, Neo F333, is looking to better their fortunes. And what have they done to try to do that? They've signed veteran driver Sergio Setta Camara. This might not be as big an upgrade as they're hoping for, though, because he slides over from another vastly underperforming team from 2022, Dragon Penske. But Camara was the bright spot for Dragon Penske Racing this past year. He qualified in the top 8 in several races, even claimed a rare top 10 finish for them in London. So maybe they've got a better car?
Doubt it.
Notice I made that a question, not a statement.
I made mine an answer.
Yeah. I'm kind of going with that. Then there's the major changes at what was Rocket Venturi Racing. Whew. Get ready for this. Before the series hits the track again, most notably, they're undergoing a name change because they are becoming the rebranded Maserati entry, at least in the short term. We'll see whether that lasts long term. Maserati has been kind of out of the whole motorsports thing for, 50 to 60 years.
A little bit.
So we'll see whether or not they stick around for a long term. Secondly, they need a new team principal for the second year in a row. Jerome D'Ambrosio, the former Formula E champion, turned deputy team principal under Susie Wolff. That happened in October of 2020. Was promoted to team principal when Wolff left the team after the 2021 season came to an end. And now after 1 year where he oversaw actually the team's best season in their history, he's leaving. Leave on a high note? I don't know. He didn't state what his plans were, and he was very professional in his departing statement. He wished the organization success as he, quote, moves forward to pursue new opportunities. Maserati team's owner, the Monaco Sports Group, their principal owner and chairman, Scott Swid, put out a statement that added, quote, I'm excited to see what the future holds for both him and us as we edge ever closer to the start of Formula E's next generation of competition this January. It's a lot of changes over there. It'd be interesting to see how this affects them.
Yep.
I mean, that many changes. I mean, going from Susie Wolff to Jerome D'Ambrosio was pretty easy. He had a year. There was no deputy team principal that I know of under D'Ambrosio that he was kind of grooming.
Right.
Now they got to start all over and with a brand new brand name.
Yeah, but with him being an actual competitor, I don't think they're going to fall off much.
I hope not. We'll find out.
I don't think they will.
In some other racing news, the National Motorsports Hall of Fame has announced their class of 2023. It's officially scheduled for induction March 6th and 7th of next year. Among those going in, the father of the Chevrolet Corvette and the Corvette racing program, Zora Arkus Duntov. I have to admit, I'm a little surprised he wasn't already in. A couple of NASCAR figures going in. Championship winning crew chief Ray Evernham and one of the early NASCAR drivers, Fonty Flock. Former NHRA Top Fuel pilot Darrell Gwynn. These are among 9 names set to be included in there. Gwynn was named one of the NHRA's top 50 drivers of all time back in 2000. Went from driving Top Alcohol in 1983, winning the title there, to Top Fuel the next year. Went on to win 18 national events. Never finished lower than 4th in the final standings between 1986 and 1989. But an accident in 1990 unfortunately left him paralyzed and ended his racing career. Evernham joined with Jeff Gordon in the final Cup Series race of the 1992 season, moving over from Bill Davis to Hendrick Motorsports. That duo paired as driver and crew chief for 47 wins and 3 Cup Series titles. And then Evernham left and formed his own Evernham Motorsports. It debuted in 2000 and laid the bodywork and the groundwork for Dodge's return to NASCAR. Remember that, kids? They developed their Intrepid. Ask your grandparents about that model. For race trim. He had sold all interest, though, in that team by 2000 and is now the co-founder, with Tony Stewart, of the Superstar Racing Experience. Fonty Flock, who I have to admit, I would have already thought he was in the National Motorsports Hall of Fame as well, passed away in 1972, began racing in what is now the Cup Series in 1949. Ran his last race only 8 years later, but in that time claimed 19 wins and 83 top 10 finishes in 154 races. That is a nice little percentage.
Absolutely.
Others going in, Henry Banks, who's been a long-time USAC official and safety pioneer. Dick Burleson, who's America's most successful motorcycle enduro racer. An air racing superstar named Art Chester. And land speed record holder Ab Jenkins, along with 2 men who modernized track emergency services across several series. Dr. Stephen Olvey and Terry Trammell, all of them very, very worthy of it. And we haven't talked much about it since it happened earlier on this year. The 2022 Race of Champions was in London. 2023 Race of Champions is starting already to take shape. They're going to go back to Sweden for the first time in several years. They're going to compete at the, I'm going to get this wrong, and I'm sorry if you're part Swedish and you know how to pronounce this. I don't. I'm going to guess at it. The Pitta Havsbad Resort. This thing is ridiculously close to the Arctic Circle.
Get an A+ for effort.
And they're going to go there in the dead of winter to boot, as the race weekend in the Arctic Circle is January 28th and 29th.
Oof.
Uh-huh. Wonder how much outdoor stuff they're doing. We know some of the drivers. Soon to retire, F1 driver Sebastian Vettel is going to be back for the German team. He might be paired with Mick Schumacher as he was earlier this year. We'll see. W Series 2-time champion Jamie Chadwick is going to be there for Britain. Ex-F1 driver Mika Hakkinen for Finland. Father-son pairing Petter and Oliver Solberg. They're, I think, Norwegian. And sports car driver Johan Kristofferson. They're all confirmed. We'll have to wait and see who else gets in there. America's still looking for that next series title winner. We haven't had one. What was the one? Was it 2012 or 2014?
14, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 14.
Step it up, America. Meanwhile, the update on the Garage 56 entry being prepped by Hendrick Motorsports and NASCAR for next year's 24 Hours of Le Mans. Chevy's VP of Performance and Motorsports, Jim Campbell, got to talking to media last Sunday before the Indycar finale, when he was very busy afterwards celebrating their manufacturer's title. He's talked about the project before the race last Sunday and said, quote, "We're going to have one driver that's a road racing and a sports car expert that will complement a couple of other drivers." But he wasn't willing to reveal any potential names of those drivers. It does seem unlikely that any of those drivers are going to come from the current crop of NASCAR drivers, because both Cup and Xfinity are running that weekend. That's June 9th through the 11th. So Xfinity and Cup are going to be at Sonoma Raceway in California. Let's see, Sonoma Raceway in California. Le Mans is in France.
No, it's not going to happen.
Way too many miles there in between, so no, can't make that work. Campbell said there's no expectation that NASCAR would make any adjustment to make any current NASCAR drivers available either. We just looked at the schedule. It's pretty jam-packed. It's not a whole lot of movement that's available in there. So no, they ain't doing it.
Nope, not at all.
He also added that one of the drivers he would like to add would be one that has experience having run at Le Mans. Hey, I got a name for you. How about Mike Rockenfeller?
Ding.
Inside Line reportedly is one of those drivers. He's got a sports car background. He's been part of the overall winning teams in both Le Mans and the 24 Hours of Daytona. And he actually also recently tested the Garage 56 Camaro at Road Atlanta. Oh, by the way, he's got some Cup experience, too. Drove the number 77 Spire Motorsports Camaro at Watkins Glen just a few weeks ago. Didn't exactly burn the place up. He finished 30th, but...
But before all of the hugabaloo happened, he climbed his way up inside the top 15 with Kimi Räikkönen.
There you go.
So,
Hendrick Motorsports, again, they're teaming with NASCAR on this, has expressed interest in putting two of their former drivers in the lineup. Hendrick talking about his vice president at Hendrick Motorsports, Jeff Gordon, is also talking Jimmy Johnson. And Johnson himself has expressed interest in doing it. But then there's those hurdles that Johnson has yet to figure out whether he's going to jump over, go around, crawl under, or avoid entirely. What exactly are Johnson's 2023 plans with an IndyCar? And we don't know what the 2023 IndyCar schedule is at this time. So we actually don't know if there's going to be a competing date. But if you base the 2023 schedule upon the history of what IndyCar has done, remember, Memorial Day weekend is the Indy 500. And generally, IndyCar runs 3 to 4 race weekends in a row after the Indy 500, which would cover June 9th through the 11th, which would mean if Jimmy Johnson's going to be back full time, he would not be able to do the Le Mans run.
that if it stays consistent and the dates stay the same, that would be the weekend of Road America.
Mm-hmm. Which, yeah, we've already commented on that.
Yep.
Let's just say that Matt was unimpressed with what Jimmy Johnson was doing at Road America, but that's beside the point.
Mid-Ohio.
Is
Sorry,
anyone impressed with Jimmy Johnson has done in...
If it's not an oval in IndyCar, no.
Yeah, I've been mildly impressed with what he's been able to do on oval tracks, but on road courses, no. Sorry, I'm not impressed.
When you are up against fellow competitors, I'm going to use for example Marcus Ericsson and Romain Grosjean, because those were the two most clear-cut ones I was watching. They're driving into less than 100 feet before corner entry before they brake, and Jimmy Johnson is braking at 300 plus. There's a difference there.
Yeah.
As I said, are you really impressed with what Jimmy Johnson has done in IndyCar? 'Cause
Not
I'm
at all.
not.
Negative Ghost Rider.
Even if you count the ovals, I'm not.
Yeah.
He's not comfortable in an IndyCar. I mean, it's apparent.
Yeah, it's very obvious he's not comfortable in that car. And 2 years? How much longer have you got? I get it. He's got that built-in sponsor. Carvana seems very, very attached to him, and I get the fact that he's a great spokesperson for that company. But how much longer are they willing to go with a driver who, I mean, we talked about underperforming before. Ladies and gentlemen, the new picture in your dictionary of underperformer is Jimmy Johnson in an IndyCar.
My take is they'll give him at least another season. After that,
Assuming that he wants a full season.
well, yeah, but after that, it's up in the air. I don't think they're going to go out on a limb too much longer because
I mean, if you're a
he's
back
just not
marker,
living up to the hype.
yeah, if you're
No.
a back marker, you're not getting your brand on television that much. I don't care who you are.
No.
If you're a back marker, television don't cover you.
No. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. No question. You got to get up front.
Yep. And he's,
And I'm a big Carvana fan.
Yeah.
I bought my latest car from Carvana.
I know. And I know a
But-
few other people who have as well.
They came out with Jimmy Johnson. I'm like, did I really go to Carvana? Darn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. This is a record for us.
Yep.
Did we start directly at 8 o'clock, John?
It was very close.
Okay.
Maybe within 2 minutes.
Okay. So for all intents and purposes, we've done 2 hours and 50 minutes. Longest show we've ever done. By far.
Yep.
And guess what? We'll probably get another chance to do this later on in the year. We're hearing potentially next week. We'll let you know. We don't know right offhand because, well, our flagship station is a Georgia affiliate. They're a Bulldogs affiliate.
Uh-huh.
A lot of it depends on when the Bulldogs decide that they're going to kick off next week and for the rest of the season. We'll keep you updated here. In the meantime, thank you for checking us out. We appreciate you checking us out on a groundbreaking one for us. First time ever that we've done only a YouTube show.
Unless you count the after show shows.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've done that, but this is the first time we've ever done a full show, nothing but YouTube.
You sure?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're positive.
I think
now,
so.
I said I was going to close in a really interesting way today.
Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is Matt's.
But thinking about it, I didn't want to get the show muted on YouTube by playing an audio clip. So I'm just going to recite the words. Couple weeks. To quote one Randy Quaid from Independence Day.
Oh, here it comes.
Hello, boys. I'm back.
We have, over the past couple of years, undergone some interesting times. I mean, 2018, we talked about it. We had the chance to go to Darlington. 2019, we got the chance to go back to Darlington. And then all of a sudden, here came Richmond. And then we came to Talladega. And then all of a sudden, our connection, Stacy Fine, we love you, babe, said, might be able to get you in at Homestead, Miami.
We were thinking
maybe 2020, 2021, sometime in the future.
No.
Yeah, 3 days later, the middle of that same week, she goes, hey, you want to go to Homestead, Miami for this year? Okay.
Book the flights.
And then 2020 came along, and we were like, cool. We get to do this again because I got a call from Homestead, Miami, and I called him up. So everything was all set for me to go back to Homestead, Miami, and then stupid COVID hit. And then some moron. Yeah, I'm going to call you out. Some moron up at the higher levels of NASCAR decided that they needed a national voice and screwed up every single track's own way of doing things. And suddenly, he was out. Not
Fast
anymore.
forward to 2022. Not anymore. But, John, do you remember me saying on this very show that when I do get back up there and said individual is in the booth of a certain hat that I was going to purchase because the school that he supports is arch rivals
School
with
that
his
he actually works for.
School that he actually works for. Is arch rivals with his school.
Oh, yes.
It's ordered and it's on the way.
Woohoo.
We can't say that because, well, we know that Matt is an Auburn fan,
Yeah.
and it has something to do with this weekend. So we'll just leave that
Yeah,
to that.
we'll leave it at that, though. But got the word yesterday. We'll be back up topside to have a view that I have sorely missed for 2 years.
I'm going to be happy to have him back up there in the PA booth. And then we'll work on John getting back up there, too. Thank you so much for checking us out. We appreciate it. We'll be back again next week. Not exactly what form it's going to take. We know YouTube.
Show.
We don't know about the FM side. We'll let you know. We'll keep you updated.
Matter of fact, I will find that out real fast. Real fast.
Okay. But we'll keep you updated. At the very least, we'll keep you updated via our social media. And who knows? We might have producer John put out a YouTube video. Yep, what?
It already kickoff confirmed.
Oh.
The Georgia Bulldogs playing the Kent State Golden Flash, 11 a.m. next week.
So we'll be back on YouTube only next week. And we appreciate you checking us out on YouTube only this week, right here.
Stay tuned about Talladega weekend.
Yeah, right here on the Championship Racing Network. Thank you again. We'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.